Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Billy Watson TV. It gives me great pleasure to have a first time guest on the show. He's actually a fan of my previous show, Shooting the Ship. We got in contact through that, and he's been in the background for the past few years looking at Bitcoin, and basically he's got me interested in it, and more so as time has went on. So it's a great pleasure to introduce my good friend David McKenzie. How are you doing today, David?
Hello, Billy. I'm well, thank you.
That's cool. This has been a bit of time in preparation because it's quite a complex subject. So we've decided to basically, I came up with some questions for you. You've went away and came up with some answers on a white paper. And rather than just read through that, I've got an audio voice. So we're going to play through each of the answers that you've came up with. Very concise answers to each particular question. And then we'll just elaborate a bit on each one of them and go through it so people can get an idea of Bitcoin. Before we get into that, would you just like to explain how you yourself got into Bitcoin and what you see as the value of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I first heard about Bitcoin, I think it was probably on the internet. I'd read something somewhere. It was back in 2011, 2012. I didn't have, regretfully, I didn't have a very good look at it. I heard about it. I couldn't really do anything about it at the time. Then in 2017, a friend of mine introduced me to a Bitcoin exchange called Coinbase and showed me how to buy cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And I bought and sold a little bit of cryptocurrencies, not necessarily Bitcoin at that time, and didn't know what I was doing with it really. And so I sold it and forgot about it until 2020. Let me think. Yeah, December of 2020, I started looking at it again because I'd heard about Bitcoin in the media, and it's risen significantly from the last prices I'd seen in 2017. And so I decided to do a little bit of research. I came across some really good resources through, at the time it was Trader University, they're called Bitcoin University now, Benjamin Cowan, who was into the cryptoverse, and I think Coin Bureau was a really quite influential at the time. They were talking about why Bitcoin was special and why it was different, and that gave me my first look into the Bitcoin network. And from there it went deeper. I then started looking at the traditional financial system, how the Federal Reserve came about, why the UK came off the gold standard, and it just went deeper and deeper. Like they say in the film, one of the films, I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head now, but this is Follow the Money. Follow the money.
So I've been getting into on the back of you kind of recommending it to me. To be honest, I'm still learning a lot. It's still kind of a big minefield to me. So this interview itself, even though I've went over your paper a couple of times, it's still, quite a complex subject. So if people are watching this, don't expect to take it all on board first time really. This is just more of an introduction to spark an interest, and then you really have to kind of put in the time to get to know it better so that you can, moving forward, buy your Bitcoin and then, as we'll explain in the document, hold it in self-custody, which is a very important element.
Absolutely.
And as you say, once you begin to look at the Federal Reserve, the creation of that, there's a very good book, The Creature of Jekyll Island.
That's right, yeah, brilliant book.
And then you see what's happening even in the news this week, the World Economic Forum, and these guys talking, they're saying one thing, but when you know the story behind it, you know why they're saying these things, and you know Donald Trump is talking absolute horse shit, and basically saying things, if it wasn't for America, everyone would be speaking German or that, and we know that's nonsense. But it's just the official story, there's the official story and then the underlying story. But when you understand more and more how money and even fiat currency being a Ponzi scheme and how that's about to collapse, then you understand the necessity for something like Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin does appear to be, as you have put it and others have put it, like a lifeboat out
Yes.
of what's called the move towards this CBCs, controlled digital currency. You know, the programmable currency.
CBDCs, central bank digital
That's
currencies.
the ones.
Yeah, that's the way they're trying to shoehorn us. Yeah, that's the way we're being pushed.
Yeah, I mean,
But
right now you see that fiat currency has no value, but with the digital currency, I mean, it's just a tool for control. That there is no inherent value in it whatsoever, and you don't have the option of having the bits of paper. So then, literally, they can take payments at will, and we lose autonomy and sovereignty.
well, that's the great thing about Bitcoin is if you hold it in self custody, they can't take it from you, and they can't change the ledger because the Bitcoin ledger is the Bitcoin network, and all the computers or nodes that are running the Bitcoin program core program have all got to agree. There's got to be consensus across the entire network, and so once you've got your Bitcoin in self custody, it's like the whole world is saying, no, this is Billy's. You can't have this, Billy. The only way you can have this is if Billy gives you the keys.
Yeah.
If Billy's got his Bitcoin in self custody, yeah.
So again, we'll get into that in a bit more detail just now. The first question comes up with that, but I'd just like to maybe talk a little bit about, just because we're on the subject of this general thing, but right now there's a couple of acts got passed, the Genius Act and the Clarity Act, and that is basically, they say that if you leave your Bitcoin on the network, in theory these guys can steal it, but if you've got it in self-custody, then they can't get a hold of it.
That's right.
And they're keeping it that way so that these guys at the top, they can still get their Bitcoin. So they're trying to make it appear, they get lots of bad news and movies, they drop it in. I've noticed that I watched a couple of movies over the new year there, and had little just 1 minute 30-second sections where they badmouth Bitcoin. In fact, it was the Steve Coogan. He had Alan Partridge. There was a series of Alan Partridge, and there was like a 30-minute bit in that with a totally, badmouth Bitcoin. You see it popping up in other things, and it's almost like there's a, what do you call it, subliminal programming to basically get you to part with your Bitcoin. And like I mentioned it to my mother, but big, oh, I seen this thing on the news, somebody lost thousands on Bitcoin, you don't want to do that. So again, they're trying to put that out so that they can scoop it all up and stop having this tool to go outside of their control system, which is the fiat currency system.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this, what can you say a little bit about the Genius Act and the Clarity Act?
Not right now, not off the top of my head. I don't know enough to really give an informed opinion about it. There are buzzwords. I have been hearing about it.
Yeah.
But
these are actually wanting to bring in, they're not actually in just now, and it's basically because they're trying to control this. But again, what I'm saying is they're not saying that you can't hold money in self-custody. You can't hold it in self-custody because they want to use it, because they believe it's a value.
Yeah, I'm sure yourself, like myself, we'd like to think we're sovereign individuals that will take responsibility for ourselves. So you could hold your own money if you wanted to quite easily. And why should you give somebody else permission to have fun with your things?
Yeah, well, again, if you look at the banks and you think it's your money,
it's not. It's not. You're a creditor, and the bank are in debt to you. But if it all goes wrong for them, they will take your money. They socialise the losses, and they privatise the profits.
Yeah. And they allow us to take an X amount out per day. You can't even go in and say, like, I want all my money out of the account. So that shows you right there who owns the money.
Yeah, I'm all for autonomy. And being responsible for my own money in whatever form that might take.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to bring up this first one. We'll play that, and then we'll come back and have a quick overview of what that said.
Okay.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a form of digital money that runs on a decentralized computer network instead of being issued by a government or controlled by a company. The Bitcoin network is just thousands of computers, nodes, and miners, all over the world running the same open-source software and following the same rules. On this network, There is a shared public ledger called the blockchain. Every 10 minutes or so, a new block of transactions is added to this chain. Once a block is added and buried under later blocks, it is extremely difficult to change, which is what makes Bitcoin hard to tamper with. When people say, "I own some Bitcoin," what they really own is the right to spend specific entries on that ledger. Those rights are controlled by cryptographic keys. If you control the private key, you control the coins. There is no customer service that can reverse a transaction or reset a password EEAS pure maths and rules enforced by the network. So, Bitcoin, capital B, is the network and protocol. Bitcoin, lowercase b, often written BTC, is the asset or coins that live on that network and can be sent person to person anywhere in the world without needing a bank in the middle.
So yeah, this is saying that it's basically an open source software following the same rules, but what does it mean by a transaction when it says every 10 minutes or so a new block of transactions is added to the chain? What's that exactly?
Okay, so if I was to buy some Bitcoin off an exchange, say Strike, for example, then obviously when I made my purchase, that purchase would be entered into a block on the onto the blockchain, and so that it'd be there in the ledger and immutable. Or if I was to transact with you, if I sent you some value via the Bitcoin network, obviously it wouldn't say Billy Watson, but there would be two basic non-human readable addresses, two lines with lots of numbers and letters, two long strings, saying it went from that address to that address. Which that I would have one address where the Bitcoin was sent from, and you would have the other address where the Bitcoin is received, and it would be wrapped up in the block on the Bitcoin network. That's why there'd be a small fee that would be paid to the miners for adding in that transaction and writing it to the blockchain.
Okay, right. So when you say an address, is that your own personal address? Is it like an IP address just where the computer is? Or
it's a wallet address, a Bitcoin wallet address that you're in control of.
Right.
So when you say that you hold the Bitcoin in self custody, you basically hold the keys to the Bitcoin, which is on the blockchain.
Okay, so I've got this Bitcoin on it's like a hard disk type of thing. It's your own wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go from country to country carrying that. Nobody needs to know anything about it. But if I want to buy or sell anything, when you make that or send the money, there's always a percentage to pay to the miners for essentially transferring that from one wallet to another.
Yeah, but I mean the fee that you're actually paying is it's in fiat terms is next to nothing. It can be next to nothing, or a few pence or a few cents to send massive amounts of value. It's like there's a guy, Michael Saylor. He sent over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin into his wallet to some of his addresses, and it cost him $3 or $4. If you looked at conventional banking rails, such as like the Visa network, you're paying something like 1.5% to 3% at times. Yeah. If you use Western Union, they want percentage of whatever transaction that could be, which could potentially, if you're talking millions or billions like Michael Saylor did, you're talking hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars for the service that they provide. Whereas Bitcoin, it can be a couple of cents.
Yeah, so it's obviously a lot better by far.
Absolutely, yeah. There's less friction on Bitcoin.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just having a look at it. You control the private key, you control the coin. So it's all about knowing the key to your hard wallet. If you lose that, you've lost your money basically. So it's not a good idea to really put it on a computer or send it by email or make it hackable in any way. You really want to write that stuff down and have different copies and safe places or something.
Yeah, certainly. So the last thing that you want to do is take a photograph of it or put it in an email that your email accounts will get hacked. You're losing your personal data all the time, every time you're logging on and what have you. So you need to be very careful with how you custody your seed phrase for your wallets, and and take care of what you're doing. There are different things that you can do. I mean, like in banking, there's different things that you can do. You could use a normal current account, or you could have a safety deposit box, couldn't you? In the Bitcoin, you can not just write it down on paper. You could engrave it onto metal and keep that safe. Obviously, make sure it's kept in a secure location. I'd say put it on metal so that it's not susceptible to fire or flood. The other thing that you can do is you can set up a multi-signatory solution, multi-sig. And so you would have to sign you'd have to sign 3 or 5 signatures, so that you could decentralize your signatures. You could put you could have 3 signatures in different physical locations throughout the world. So if you've got trusted third parties, so either a spouse, or you've got a solicitor, or you've got decent legal line set up, your sovereign wealth can be kept securely that way.
Yep, cool. So we'll go on to the next one, although it might take a bit of time to catch up, so let's just go with the flow.
Is it a physical coin, or does it exist only on the internet? There are no native physical bitcoins in the way there are physical pound coins or notes. Bitcoin exists purely as digital information on the blockchain, a ledger that lives on computers around the world. Each bitcoin is really just an entry in that ledger saying, "This amount belongs to the holder of this cryptographic key." When you spend it, the ledger is updated. The coins move from one address to another, and the entire network agrees on the new state. You can, however, create physical objects that represent bitcoins. For example, there are metal coins, paper wallets, and cards that contain a private key or seed phrase inside. Whoever holds that physical object effectively controls the coins, because they hold the key that can move them. But even in those cases, the actual value still lives on the blockchain, not inside the metal or paper. If the internet vanished and all the Bitcoin nodes disappeared, those physical items would just be souvenirs. So Bitcoin is fundamentally digital. Physical items are just ways for humans to handle or hide the keys more easily.
That's basically just what we were saying there. So again, this is not a physical asset, it's a digital asset. It's held in a hard wallet, and you need the keys to access it. I've lost your sound for some reason.
That's right.
So yeah, we've kind of went over that. So now we'll go on to the next part, yeah?
How do you mine for Bitcoin? Mining is the process of creating new Bitcoin blocks and securing the network. Miners use specialized computers, ASICs, application-specific integrated circuits, to perform trillions of guesses per second on a cryptographic puzzle. Here's the basic flow. 1. Pending transactions are broadcast around the network. 2. Miners collect a batch of these into a candidate block. 3. They then repeatedly adjust a number in the block, the nonce, and run the block S header through the SHA-256 hashing algorithm. 4. They are trying to find a hash that is lower than a target set by the network S difficulty. This is like a lottery. Each hash is a ticket. 5. When a miner finally finds a valid hash, they broadcast their block to the network. 6. If other nodes verify that the block is valid, correct hash, valid transactions, follows the rules, it is added to the blockchain. As a reward, the winning miner gets the block subsidy, newly created bitcoins, plus any transaction fees in that block. Over time, the subsidy gets cut in half roughly every 4 years, the halving. So mining income relies more and more on transaction fees as the years go by.
Okay, now it's beginning to lose me. So, this mining for new Bitcoin, you get the idea there's somebody's down there mining away for stuff, but it's not done in the physical world. This is done on a computer.
Yes. So yeah, basically The ASIC mining rig is what they generally use now. Is that little physical digital guy? Electricity's being burnt. That's the virtual little man in there in the machine, the virtual machine, hacking away to mine the block.
What's this about? Is trying to find a hash. What's a hash?
So a hash. That's a really good question, and I think I should actually put that one to Google rather than trying to explain it myself. Yeah. So, what is a hash? It's a unique fixed length string of characters generated from any input data using a hash function, acting like a digital fingerprint that represents the original data, crucial for data integrity, password security, and efficient data retrieval in systems like databases and cryptocurrency. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm not saying I understand it exactly, but it's getting there.
And so that is up on the Google page.
I mean, this is what this Bitcoin does, because there's a lot of words in here and you don't really know what they're talking about sometimes, or how it pieces together. So you do have to spend a bit of time with this, which
like put together a glossary of terms, perhaps.
Yeah, and it does help you getting more familiar and more kind of trusting in the security of the whole thing, because a lot of people might say, I don't know, all this is set up more so than other kinds of coins that are out there. Again, we'll get to this of why it's the most secure, and as I say, it's on a public network, so everyone can see every transaction. But right now, people are saying cash is king, because you want to give your grandson a tenner for washing the car or whatever, and you don't want to leave a trace of it. This is an argument against going to digital currency. Mm-hmm. But yet with Bitcoin, literally everything, you can see any transaction anyone's made at all times, because it's all on the public network.
Yeah, it's not complete. It's not like it's pseudonymous is the word I'm looking for. Okay, because what you're seeing is strings of numbers and letters. It doesn't say Billy Watson. When it says, like, it comes to the wallet name, it doesn't say Billy Watson. This wallet's Billy Watson's.
Yeah.
And so you get a string of numbers and letters, that hash there. And what you can do is if you set yourself up in a certain way, then they've got to use intelligence to connect that Bitcoin back to you, until the KYC rules have changed things now. I mean, you can still transact non-KYC, which stands for Know Your Customer. It's pseudonymous. It's not completely traceable.
But
the traceability, is quite difficult. You've got to know what you're doing to how to do it. But there are entities out there that are really good at tracing.
What if there was some case of fraud or something like that, and somebody's paid something to do something illegally, and it got into a court case? Then in theory somebody could go in and say, oh look, you've made this payment to that payment, at the highest level, if that needed to be done. In theory it could be traced, but in the general day-to-day thing, there's not an active, easily viewable, or he's paid him kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it can be traced if required, so people can't again, it's putting people off using it for illegal means and stuff like that.
Well, do you know what the most used thing to do for illegal trading is? For illegal transactions, it's the US dollar.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's the dollars and the pounds.
Yeah.
So what's come about is actually currency that it is, yes, easier to trace, so it's less likely to be used in criminal activities. The police have openly come out and said, we hope everybody, all criminals track on Bitcoin, transact on Bitcoin, because it'll make our life so much easier. But it's Bitcoin's a tool, and if there's information that's being put out there that's making people scared, or there's media being put out there that's been making these people scared, you want to ask yourself, why is that happening? Why are they driving that narrative?
Yeah.
Why do they want you to lead your thought process in that way? What else is out there that they don't want you to know about?
Yeah.
What else is going on?
And we've got to also, people watching this will probably know anyway, but the government themselves, it's not just the government. The government are like a tool of the bankers. They've been co-opted or whatever, and they're the biggest criminals going. They are the mafia. So the whole CIA and certain operations in the government are run using drug money, child trafficking money, and all these things. That's what funds them.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if we never had all that and we were just using this, their funding is taking it away from their manipulation of the money supply.
Yeah.
So again, it comes here about mining, and what's a miner doing? And they're using a lot of electricity and stuff, so this is a proof of work concept, so they've had to put time and effort and energy into getting the right to put this onto the blockchain, and then this is where these small transaction fees that they get for doing that, again, it might be a small amount, but over time that can increase as the supply is more demand for the supply, and the supply is a fixed amount. So it's quite a good investment for them as well to spend the time doing this, but you need quite a big capacity of computer and stuff to be able to do this mining. Can anyone do it?
Yeah, anybody can join in. That's one of the great things. Back in the beginning days of Bitcoin, people were mining on their laptops and Raspberry Pis, and originally the first block reward was 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. Which is absolutely nuts now to think about. If I'd known what I know now back then, you and I probably wouldn't have be having this conversation, because I'd own a private island somewhere warm. And then as more people entered into Bitcoin mining, as the network slowly grew, what happened is there's a difficulty adjustment, because if too many people started mining without the difficulty adjustment, that is, then the blocks would come sooner than 10 minutes. So what happens is the Bitcoin program itself balances out the actual mining, and there's a difficulty adjustment. So if there's more computers mining and more energy going into the network, then it becomes more difficult to mine a block. If there is less computers and less energy going into mining, then it takes longer for the blocks to be mined. Then the adjustment is made so that it is easier to mine a block.
Right. And mining a block is like you're searching for some code or something like that. So, I mean, is it just a case of everyone's doing the same thing, and eventually one will get it before the other, and then that puts them ahead of them in the queue? But if you keep persevering, you'll move up in the queue, and you'll definitely get to the point where it's your turn to put these transactions on.
I don't know is the honest answer to that one, Billy, because I've never actually tried mining for myself. I would like to give it a go at some point. As far as I know, it's whoever gets there first is a problem, an incredibly difficult problem, a mathematical equation, and it's whichever miner gets the right answer first wins the right to write the next block, and then they write all the transactions in the block, and then the block is added to the chain, which is verified by the rest of the network, all the nodes.
Right. So
and it continues and it continues. So it's like a lottery every 10 minutes almost.
Yeah.
So there's been solo mining operations. So guys just running, rather than these great big expensive machineries and great big warehouses full of computers, they're just on little sort of Raspberry Pi size machines that they've bought for a few pounds off Amazon, and they've actually mined the block and won the block. And the currently, I think the block reward's 3.25 Bitcoin. for getting that block.
And considering we're looking at what's about $80,000 just now for one Bitcoin.
So if we go to the to Google, so if you bring up the Google page, there we go. So Bitcoin's down a little bit today. It's at £65,936.24 currently.
Yeah. So 3.25 of them is not too bad then, is it?
Yeah. So 3.25. So that's 214,000 currently, and 292.
Maybe we should try and get into this ourselves.
Well, yeah. If especially if you've got stranded electricity as well. It's so if you've got an oil well that is venting gas, it's basically flaring off gas, which is just being burnt and left heat to the atmosphere. You can turn that heat into electricity, run a Bitcoin miner, and earn free Bitcoin, whereas you were just burning waste. A friend of mine in Canada who's got a decent sized property. He's got an 8.5 kilowatts solar rig on his solar farm on his property. He's looking into running Bitcoin miners on because he's off grid there. Countries like Bhutan is a great example. The country of Bhutan, which is up in the Himalayas. They've got a massive excess of hydroelectricity, and they've been quietly mining Bitcoin for years, to the point where they're one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin, and they've got quite a lot of the mining power of Bitcoin. And so all their country, I think they're brilliant because they don't rate their country on GDP, on gross domestic product. They base it on GDH, which is gross domestic happiness. They're on that happiness metric, and I think that's brilliant. And yeah, it's less than 1 million people of their population, and the amount of Bitcoin that they've collectively got is unreal.
Aye.
They're actually so rich now for it, and they're just going to get richer.
Yep, we're going the opposite direction. So our happiness rating's minus 1 million or something.
Yeah, you can see people are not happy here, but we've got a currency that we're not incentivized to save, are we? You as soon as you get it, you want to spend it as quickly because it's going to be worth less tomorrow. So why hold on to it?
Yeah.
And that's such a really depressing mindset. They want you just to consume and not think, and don't think about tomorrow just because tomorrow is going to be really bleak.
Yeah, well, we are called consumers, and basically, with regard to that, there's not that many people have very much excess money these days anyway. By the end of the month, with the cost of everything skyrocketing, holidays abroad are becoming more and more rare, even because people have to cut back on so-called luxuries, and just eat all the crap food in the supermarkets. It's not nutrition. These shite that we get fed is part of us keeping us in this low vibration and not expecting any better, not striving for better. And we don't look at these other solutions because we're consuming all the entertainment as well, which is another distraction. And many people are not actually thinking that far in the future. And with regard to this Bitcoin, what it's doing is, okay, you put a little bit aside every month and you say, okay, I'm not touching that for 4 years because of this halving thing. I believe is worth keeping for a longer period of time. So it's almost like you say it's a way incentivize you to save because long term it's going to pay off. Because you think it'll never come, but the future does arrive sooner than you think.
Yeah.
And, therefore, you'll be in a better position, especially with what appears to be happening right now, with regard to them aiming for these digital currencies and potentially collapsing the whole fiat currency scheme anyway, because it needs debt to keep propping it up. Without people getting in more debt, then the whole thing collapses. which is not sustainable over. We're already, say America's 83 trillion or something ridiculous in debt. Just it's laughable, really.
Well, have you seen what's happened to the Iranian real recently? And this has happened in the last couple of weeks. The real has gone to zero.
All right.
It's I'll let me go back to Google 1 second. I'm just going to take it off the Bitcoin chart and put it on the real chart.
Is this something to do with? Do you think these protests are genuine? That's happening right now, or do you think it's part of another regime change?
There you go. That's it there. Right. Let's see what £1 sterling is. Is that number? 145,000. No. 1 million. No. 14,539,000. No. It's what? It looks about 1.4 million Iranian real to a pound.
Yeah.
It's there. It's a ridiculous number, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
When I first went to Turkey, they had million notes, and it's like a tenner or something like that, and then they reset everything to put 1 million just to be one. But still, it was quite weak currency, so you could go there and get quite a lot of value for your pounds. And recently, their currency has been deflating quite a lot.
Yeah.
But it's still not as cheap as your pounds are. It's very expensive for the local workers to live there.
Yeah.
And when a British person goes and converts their money, things are not as cheap as they used to be, because they're having to bump their prices up. Yeah, I mean.
Well, this is inflation. It's inflation in process. They're just printing more money.
Yeah.
So if there's more Turkish lira, if there's more pounds, if there's more dollars in circulation, then they're just going to put the prices up, because the pounds, the dollars, or the lira are worth less.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't do that to Bitcoin, which is that was the thing for me, is realizing that they couldn't deflate it. They couldn't inflate it. It's actually a deflationary asset, and they couldn't deflate it, and they couldn't co-opt it. They can't. They can't fuck with it, basically. Excuse my language, but Bitcoin can't be messed with. Bitcoin is a protocol that cannot be messed with, and that makes it extremely valuable, extremely powerful. It's got a fixed supply.
Yeah.
You know that then in any commodity, you've got a supply and demand, haven't you? Gold, I don't know, iPhones, whatever you can think of. Right? If the demand goes up, then they increase the supply. Pepsi start canning more Pepsi. More iPhones get made. New mines will get opened up for the gold. Right? It doesn't matter how much the demand goes up for Bitcoin. There's a fixed supply. That's the real thing for me is, and I've got to say it again, it does not matter how much the demand goes up. There's a fixed supply.
And how people think then, so there's only going to be so much money in the world, but you can break these Bitcoin down to 0.00001, etc. So
in one Bitcoin, like in a pound, you've got 100 pennies, haven't you?
Yeah.
In one Bitcoin, you've got 100 million Satoshi. So, if you've got, say, 1 pence worth of a Bitcoin, if you've got 0.01, which would be 1 penny in a pound, 0.01, you'd have 1 million Satoshi.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can. I a couple of weeks ago, I bought 1 penny's worth of Bitcoin on the Strike app, and that costs 1 penny's worth of Bitcoin on the Strike app was about 15 Satoshi. So it's what's that, 1,500 Satoshi per pound?
Right.
Right. Eventually, it is my firm belief that there will be Satoshi parity to the pound or to the dollar. in the future, I'm not saying it's going to happen in the next 5 years, but probably in the next 50 years, the way things are going, that one Bitcoin will probably be worth about £100 million or $100 million.
Yeah. So it's not a good reason to invest in it now.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's given me hope for my future. A few years ago, I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have a retirement plan. I've been out. I've enjoyed myself. I've done a lot of things that I wanted to do with my life. But I got to a certain age and realised that I've got no end game plan. And if I didn't change that, then I'd end up working to death. I didn't like that prospect. It might be nice to leave something or some mark in the world for my relatives. I don't have any children of my own, but you know what I mean. I've got nephews and nieces, so why wouldn't I leave something to my family? And my current state, the state I was then at that time, when that was my current state, I couldn't see a way forward. And then Bitcoin came to me it came as an answer, and it has given me hope. And I'm in a much better position than I've ever been, because that I took the time to invest in myself and try and understand Bitcoin a little bit better. And then when I did that, I tried to improve my habits rather than being, I want it now, well, let's just go and do it and enjoy it. It's like, well, I want to have fun next week and next year, and in 20 years' time, I want to not worry about working. I'm not saying that I'm going to retire. I'm just going to change how I share my time. I use my time in the world.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's move on to the next one, because we could spend 2 hours on every question probably, but let's zip this one up.
Who does the mining? In the early days, anyone with a normal computer could mine Bitcoin from home. As the network grew and the value went up, competition increased. Today, mining is mostly done by large mining companies and farms warehouses full of thousands of ASIC machines, often located where electricity is cheap, for example near hydro, wind, or stranded gas. Smaller professional operations, people running tens or hundreds of miners. Individuals using mining pools, a pool combines the hash power of many small miners and shares out the rewards proportionally. In theory, anyone can mine. The rules are completely open, and there is no permission needed. In practice, profitable mining now requires specialized hardware, a good electricity price, and proper cooling. You can still mine at a small scale at home if you're willing to treat it more as a hobby, education, or way to support the network, rather than a guaranteed profit machine. The key point is that mining is decentralized. There is no single company or government doing all the mining. Thousands of participants around the world compete and cooperate to secure the network and earn rewards.
Went over this already, but just let's say I wanted to do some mining. Where do you learn about that? How could I say, right, I want to do some mining? Where do you start?
The first place I would be looking is YouTube. And I would literally I'd be putting in the taskbar how to mine Bitcoin, and take it from there. There's so many people way smarter than I that can explain things succinctly. Yeah. And that again is YouTube and Google, or obviously other browsers are available.
Yeah, but I guess the first thing is getting to grips with it, owning some and checking it all out first, and you kind of build up to that. I believe the more people use it, the better it is to keep. If more people have it in self-custody, because again, it's like it was originally started as a way to kind of compete against the banks. I think they were called cypherpunks.
Yes.
Kind of started this movement, and then they kind of realised what they had at some point down the line. It's almost came out of the ether, and they've jumped in it to find their own way of trading, I guess, outside the Federal Reserve, and then they've realised the value of it, and then more people are doing it. But it's a case of they're not wanting to hog it. People with Bitcoin want other people to use it. Why is that good?
Well, it'll increase the network and the reach of the network. Bitcoin was a direct response to the 2008 financial crisis. Yeah, it was the fact that the bankers with making very shady deals, and it was just very well outlined out in the film The Big Short.
Yep.
Basically, the banks were selling mortgages that they shouldn't have been selling, and they basically package up the debt and resold the debt, and they were doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. A guy called Mark Cuban saw what they were doing, and he bet against the bankers. And he ended up being right, and he made billions whilst people lost their houses. There were so many foreclosures across all over the world, and as a direct result of that, the losses again, the losses were socialised. And so it was Joe Public, people like you and me, through taxation, we paid off the banks. Okay. Now, when they get their profits, they all get their bonuses. They don't socialise the profits, so they're taking the money from the public for the mistakes that we've been making. For the mistakes that they've been making. Okay, and the occasional times that they're in the right, they're giving themselves the bonus, and we don't get anything, and that's not really fair. And so Satoshi Nakamoto, whether he be a person or an entity or whatever else, a time traveler, some people think, basically wrote the Bitcoin white paper and the core program and released it to the world on 3rd January 2009 as a direct result of what happened in 2008.
Yeah, we will come to him further on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, basically that is how it came about. And yeah, what's a cypherpunk? That's a label I hear.
Well, a cipher is a key to a code, and a punk is somebody that believes in anarchism. And anarchism is the idea of without rulers, and a lot of people mistake it for without rules, and that's not correct. It's without rulers, and so it means that you're self-governing.
Yeah.
And so the cypherpunks, I guess. Excuse me, I don't know if you can hear the bell going in the background. There's a grandfather clock downstairs.
Right.
Midday already. So yeah, a cypherpunk is somebody that uses coding and self-governance. I guess is the answer to that.
Yeah, and again, that's another one they do. I don't know. I never watched it, but Sons of Anarchy. This whole he's an anarchist. The Sex Pistols. I am an anarchist, etc.
Yes.
I'm an antichrist. It gives the idea that it's just a world without rules, but it's actually self-governance. It's like we don't want rulers dictating to us on a whim. We'll make them ban parking on pavements today, and we'll charge them money on that or whatever. People decide, okay, it's safe if I want to park on this pavement, or no, this is a stupid place to park on the pavement, or whatever. You know what I mean? We should take moral and personal and collective responsibility and police ourselves and your neighbourhood, rather than call these servants of the mafia to come and sort it out, and then they're going to profit from people's disagreements where it could be sorted at source. And it's a way, even to me, having a police force is a way to absolve responsibility of your own neighbourhood, you know. So yeah, again, to me that word is very much misused intentionally. So I'm an anarchist at heart.
Absolutely, you've got to pay very careful attention to the language that's being used, and the weight and the shape it is being used at as well.
They're very good at saying one thing, using language to make us think it is one way, but the actual words, if you look into them, they're saying something completely different.
Yeah.
The simple one is, a policeman, do you understand? It means, do you stand under my authority?
Yeah, will you stand under that statement? It's what now? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're absolute experts at that. So the subliminal mind doesn't question it because it understands this actual truth. So there's truth in there, but our perception of it in the conscious mind is different to the actual reality.
Do you know, and I think it's that there's a link there between what you've just said and the difficulty people have with the concept of money. Okay, because you were born into that system, because we've been born into the system of money that we were born into. All right, it's a Plato's cave kind of thing. Because you were in that cave all your life, how are you going to understand something else until you've stood without until you've been outside of that cave, and then you can look back. And that's, for me, is what getting my head around Bitcoin has been about quite a bit.
Yeah.
Is like, well, actually, I can think back to when I was a child and I went to France for the first time, and we changed pounds into, this was when it was still had francs. And the French franc and the British pound was fairly close, but it was slightly different. And I couldn't get my head round why it wasn't 1 franc, £1.
Yeah.
Why wasn't there? I didn't know what parity was at the time, but why wasn't there parity? And so it was hard to understand the French franc as real money, but it was real enough to the French, wasn't it?
I mean, I find it's crazy how you have these different currencies. Like, for instance, I lived in Turkey, and the lira they're suffering quite a bit, and then we can come there with our pounds and spend it there and be rich.
Mm-hmm.
But they came with their lira here. It doesn't go as far. It's just not fair, is it? So,
it's not right, and not only that, it's because it's a fiat currency. It's not backed to anything.
Yeah.
Do you know, if it was back to gold or silver they don't. It's fiat. Fixing again tomorrow is what it really stands for. Although it's actually the Latin for "let it be" or "by decree," isn't it?
All right.
That's where the name fiat currency. That's why it all comes about. But it's because we came off the gold standard. It's not backed by anything. It's made up. That's why Bitcoin's more real to me than the pound note. The pound note might be a £10 note might be a physical thing, but the idea behind it is fake. It's not. It says I promise to pay the bearer, but pay me what?
Yeah.
£10 of what? It's not £10 of silver anymore, is it? It's not £10 worth of gold.
Yeah.
So what is it £10 worth of? It's £10 worth of a politician's word.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Well, thin air.
What's that worth, Billy?
Fucking not a lot.
Right. Whereas Bitcoin, if you've got that Bitcoin in your custody, right, and you've got £10 worth, however many satoshis that is, right, whatever it is, where the exchange rate is at the minute, you've got energy, you've got your name in that ledger. That energy belongs to you. That what was mine, that effort, that energy, that agency, the value that you created in the world is yours. Okay, and you can send that through time. You can send that to future Billy. You could send that to your son. You could send that to your grandchildren. Do you know what I mean? It's not the state stealing your time, your effort, your agency back from yourself.
Yeah, and just on the subject of words as well, if you think they say it was the Venetians or something, set up the maritime trading routes or whatever, and these money that we use, like bank and currency, all these terms of the sea, that has become synonymous with money. Again, it's just an interesting topic how language is used and where it came from originally. So anyway,
absolutely,
we'll continue on this.
What is the proof of work concept? Proof of work, POW, is the security mechanism Bitcoin uses to decide who gets to add the next block and to make rewriting history extremely expensive. The idea is simple. To produce a valid block, a miner must prove that they have done a large amount of computational work by finding a hash below the difficulty target. This work costs real-world resources: electricity, hardware, time. Verifying the work, however, is cheap. Every node can quickly check the hash and confirm whether it meets the target. Because it is expensive to create blocks, but easy for everyone else to check them, proof of work makes attacks very costly. To rewrite the last n blocks, an attacker would need to redo all the work for those blocks, and then catch up and overtake the honest chain. That would require enormous computing power and electricity. Proof of work also ties the digital system to the physical world. Miners must pay ongoing real-world costs, which aligns their incentives with keeping the network honest. If they tried to cheat and the coins they earned became worthless, they would have burned money for nothing. So, POW is both a way to secure the blockchain and an economic game that makes honest behavior the most profitable strategy in the long run.
But surely, if these guys are printing money, there is a certain amount of effort and energy goes into printing bits of paper. Although a lot of it these days is just digital. You go to a bank and you take a £10,000 loan out, and then they've got the capability to suddenly. Oh, we've lost David there. They've got the capability to lend 10,000 on the back of that.
What is an ETF? ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. It is an investment fund that holds a basket of assets, such as stocks, bonds, commodities, or Bitcoin, and issues shares that trade on a stock exchange, just like a normal company share. Key points about ETFs. You buy and sell them through a brokerage account, not through a cryptocurrency wallet. You don't directly own the underlying asset. You own shares in the fund, which itself holds the asset. They are usually designed to track the price of something, for example, the S&P 500 index, gold, or Bitcoin. A Bitcoin ETF is a fund that gives you price exposure to Bitcoin without requiring you to handle private keys or use a crypto exchange directly. For many traditional investors and institutions, ETFs are familiar, regulated vehicles. However, owning a Bitcoin ETF is not the same as owning actual Bitcoin in self-custody. With an ETF, you have counterparty risk. You depend on the fund, the custodian, and the regulator. No direct control over the coins. You can send them to someone or use them on-chain. ETFs are useful for investment exposure, but they are a very different thing from holding real Bitcoin yourself.
Here we go with what is an ETF, because this is a question I asked you because I've not mentioned him yet in this show, but you did put me on to a guy called Simon Dixon.
Yeah.
SimonDixon.com. He's got a YouTube channel. He was doing Bitcoin Hard Talk. It's now called Simon Dixon Hard Talk, but it's on the Simon Dixon YouTube. And he's worth a listen to. He does a 3-hour show every week, going into the real reasons of what's happening on the political world and stuff like that. And he keeps on mentioning certain buzzwords that he's probably explained in the episodes that I haven't watched, because he's got up to about 108 now. And ETF is one of them, so that was a question I had for you. Let's look at this and then. Okay. So an ETF, like, say, right now I'm buying Bitcoin on a website called Coinbase.
Right.
Which Simon Dixon actually invested in, and then he says it started to get other. It went private or something, or it went to the public, and it's not what it was. So he's sold his shares in it, because it's now susceptible to government control, essentially.
Yes.
Is that an ETF? If I'm holding the Bitcoins on their system and it's not in self-custody?
So no. Basically, what you're doing, your particular case, Billy, is you've got your Bitcoin on an exchange. An ETF is an exchange-traded fund, but you're not holding a fund. You didn't buy the ETF. You bought the Bitcoin. So what you can do now, if you want to, is take your Bitcoin off the exchange and self-custody it, like we've previously mentioned, and that's a good thing. Coinbase holds the ETFs on behalf of companies like BlackRock that provide the ETF. So Coinbase will be a custodial option for BlackRock, but yes, it is also a publicly traded company, as in you can buy shares of Coinbase on a shares dealing exchange or on the stock market.
Right. So Coinbase has a value, and then it can go up or down.
Yes, Coinbase itself is a company that has a value that can go up or down, just as the Bitcoin price could go up or down.
Right. So, but we wouldn't recommend. Is there any reason why not to buy via Coinbase, or what would you recommend is the best place to buy Bitcoin? Does it matter as long as you try and put it in self-custody as soon as possible?
Buy Bitcoin anywhere that you feel safe. I mean, I felt safe. Coinbase was the first exchange that was shown to me, and it was usable to me, and I used it for many years. I've still got the Coinbase app on my phone now, but I generally just don't buy on Coinbase.
Do you still hold on Coinbase?
I don't hold anything on Coinbase.
Right.
No, I don't. I don't hold any funds on exchanges like that.
Because ultimately, that can be taken away from us. That's why,
Yeah, if it's in my pocket, they're not going to reach their hand into my pocket without me knowing.
Yeah, but if it's on Coinbase, somebody else was holding it for you.
Well, Coinbase is the custody. Basically, what that ends up being is Coinbase ends up having the same responsibilities as a bank. It's performing the same function as a bank. It's just that the currency is in Bitcoin rather than pounds or dollars.
Yeah, which again, the bank can steal your money, so there's no reason.
Yeah, well, it's not your keys, not your coin, is the saying in Bitcoin. Yeah. So where you hold the keys is where you hold the coin. Whereas with your money, if your money's in the bank, it belongs to the bank, and you've got a receipt for it. Yeah. A receipt isn't the same as as holding the real thing, though, is it?
Yeah.
Whereas you could take the risk yourself and hold the money yourself. All right, and then you deal with the security option, the security considerations that setup implies. But the same applies for Bitcoin. You know what I mean? It's basically what you're doing is you're taking responsibility for your own action and your own wealth.
Well, before Bitcoin, I guess people, if they wanted to secure their money, they would then take the money out of the bank, buy silver or gold, because again, that's a limited resource.
Yeah.
And they would be again responsible there for storing it somewhere where nobody can find it and nobody can touch it.
Yeah, and again, you have the security risk.
Yeah.
Or you could leave that gold and silver in the bank, and see how that worked out for the French, leaving their gold in New York.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, they sent warships to New York to pick the gold back up, and Nixon took, as a result of that, because they didn't have the gold, took the US off the gold standard.
Yeah.
So
that kind of made it clear at that point that this money wasn't real when the French went for it in 1971, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, that was 7 years before I was born. I was born in 78, and I only probably in the last 10 years read about that. And it's fascinating.
Yep. There's so much goes on that doesn't get in the news, and the news is not called the truth, and everything you need to know about the world is north, east, west, south, send you every direction apart from the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's move on to the next one.
Where can people buy Bitcoin? There are several main ways to acquire Bitcoin. 1. Centralized exchanges, CEXS. These are online platforms where you can deposit fiat, GBP, EUR, USD, and trade it for BTC. Examples include big global exchanges and also local/regional ones. They usually require identity verification, KYC, and connect to your bank account or card. 2. Bitcoin-only brokers and apps. Some services focus mainly or entirely on Bitcoin. They often make the buying process simpler and may encourage self-custody by letting you withdraw easily to your own wallet. 3. Peer-to-peer, P2P. You can buy directly from other friends, local meetups, or online P2P marketplaces by swapping cash or bank transfers for BTC. This can reduce reliance on big exchanges, but requires more trust and caution. 4. ATMs and voucher systems. In some places, there are Bitcoin ATMs, where you insert cash and receive BTC to a wallet address. Fees can be higher, but they can be convenient. 5. Earning it. You can accept Bitcoin as payment for goods, services, or work. This is arguably the most natural way to get BTC because you are trading your labor or products directly for the asset. Whichever route you choose, a good practice is to withdraw your coins to a wallet you control, instead of leaving them parked on a centralized exchange long term.
basically just what we're talking about there, taking it off the exchange and then keeping it in self-custody or on your own thing. And there's different ways there to get Bitcoin. Let's see, number one, obviously the centralized exchanges, that's like Coinbase and stuff, yeah?
Places like Coinbase, Binance, Nexo.
Then Bitcoin-only brokers and apps, what's that?
Bitcoin-only brokers and apps. So that would be apps like Strike app. Jack Mahler is the CEO of Strike. He's a young lad. He's in his 20s. Right. He understood Bitcoin when he was 13. Right. And he's a very smart, very rich young man that started the Strike app, which is actually an app that I use. And I would highly recommend it to anybody that is just trying to learn about buying Bitcoin for the first time. It makes it very easy to buy Bitcoin. When I say that I don't hold Bitcoin on exchanges, basically I let it build up on that app because it buys for me daily until I hit a certain amount of Satoshis, and then transfer them all together. Because I've actually got a purchase order of £1.50 a day just sat running in the background now, which is, you're not going to miss £1.50 out. It's like it's a chocolate bar and a can of Coke or whatever, and and so that just goes every day, and then when that hits like a certain amount of 1,000 Satoshi, then I just take it off then. I don't leave. The rule for me is I don't leave anything on an exchange that I would miss. Yeah, it is by the time it starts coming an amount that you would miss having, then it comes off.
So that's Strike, STRIKE.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, have a look for that one. Peer to peer, you can buy from friends in local meetups.
So, for an example, let's just say I'd got an excess of Bitcoin and I was looking to sell some, and you wanted to buy some Bitcoin for the first time. Then you and I could sit down together and say, look, this is what the market price is, or we could work out our price, and I could send it to you directly, and there would be no third party.
Right, which is
that's the important bit. There's no third party involved. Nobody needs to be in the middle of our transactions.
Yep. Whereas right now, unless it's cash, everything done on a bank. The bank's
I mean, I could send you PayPal, but PayPal's got in the middle of that, or I could Revolut it to you, but it's still a bank. Or I could make the effort to come all the way up to Bowness, and put it in your hand, or I could meet you halfway at Carlisle or whatever. What if I was on the other side of the world and I wanted to send you some value? I can just send it directly to you, and nobody else need be involved in that.
Yep.
All right.
And then we've got the next one, ATMs. You're saying there's a place where you can...
You can't. There's no ATMs for Bitcoin in the UK anymore. There was for a very short while, so I'm led to understand. But there's no Bitcoin ATMs here. There is in Europe. A friend of mine was in Poland on holiday a few months ago, and he used one just to try it. He buys Bitcoin anyway. He took pictures and sent it to me to say, yeah, look what I've just done. So.
All right, so you're at a bank with your bank card, you put it in, and say take it out of that fiat currency, and then you put in your details for your Bitcoin, wherever it's going to go. Yeah. Would that be to your private wallet or?
You can send it to your private wallet. You use a QR code. Right. Use of QR codes. It flies straight to your wallet.
Cool. And then this way, earning it, I think it'd be quite good if your job gave you the option. Do you want to put X amount of money, do you want to get paid in Bitcoin or whatever like that? That'd be quite good.
Yeah, well, that is already happening in other countries. People are working for Bitcoin to the point where it's even starting to happen in America now. So there's a chain, there's a restaurant chain called Steak and Shake, and they basically were one of the first big chains to say we will accept Bitcoin. So you can buy a Bitcoin burger if you wanted. And they've just announced, I read the other day, that they're going to pay their employees bonuses in Bitcoin.
All right.
So basically they're getting getting Bitcoin, and they're paying that out to their employees. So Yeah, this was the first time I thought to myself, well, actually, I'd quite like a lowly service industry job for a big corporation.
Yeah, it was good to see it's getting adopted and becoming more uses for it and more accepted as time goes on. And I think there's countries like El Salvador as well that.
So yeah, the El Salvador case, they were the first country to adopt Bitcoin as a recognised currency. Yeah, they bought Bitcoin for all their citizens. There's a great thing going on called Bitcoin Beach there, where they're building whole communities around Bitcoin and circular economies around Bitcoin. And then there's happened in places like Costa Rica as well. There's a Bitcoin beach, a Bitcoin jungle in Costa Rica. There is in different areas in Africa where there's very little infrastructure. They're transacting on the Bitcoin network via the sort of like the old mobile phone networks, because it works on the old phone networks. It works across that.
Right.
And so there doesn't even need to be the internet out there in the wilds, and they can still transact. And then there's so many millions of people that are unbanked that are now able to use financial instruments and be included in the modern world, as it were.
Was it not Kenya recently? There was some country that was in Africa, I'm sure, that they were trying to introduce digital currency hard time, full time.
Yeah, they've been trying that in Nigeria. The digital Naira.
Aye.
And Bitcoin, the uptake of Bitcoin in Nigeria is the adoption rate is quite good there.
Yeah, because it's like trying to find alternative ways outside of this forced digital currency.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the next one.
How does Bitcoin have value? Value is ultimately about what people are willing to trade for something. Bitcoin has value because enough people around the world believe it is useful and scarce, and are willing to exchange their time, goods, services, and fiat money for it. Several key factors drive that value. Scarcity. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins. This hard cap is enforced by the protocol and the network's consensus rules. Scarce things that people want tend to hold value. Monetary properties. Bitcoin is durable. It doesn't rust or rot. Divisible, down to 100 millionth of a coin, a satoshi. Portable. You can move millions across the world in minutes. Verifiable. Nodes can check coins are real. And hard to counterfeit. Decentralization and censorship resistance. No single government or company controls it. Transactions can be made person to person, even across hostile borders, without asking permission. Network effects. As more people, companies, and institutions accept and hold Bitcoin, its usefulness and perceived value increase, which attracts more participants. History and credibility. Bitcoin has operated for over a decade without a central authority, surviving attacks, forks, and many Bitcoin is dead headlines. That track record builds trust that the rules won't suddenly change. Nothing backs Bitcoin in the sense of a promise from a central authority, just like nothing physical backs modern fiat currencies either. Its value comes from its properties, its scarcity, and the collective belief and use of millions of participants.
Yeah, so we have kind of covered quite a lot of that stuff already, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it does have inherent value based on the effort required to produce it. So, in people's belief in that as well. It's not just based on nothing. The belief that the money itself, that we use fiat currency, it's just the belief with nothing backing it. Whereas Bitcoin has that energy.
But yeah, Bitcoin's energy powers a chain of truth, and that in itself, especially with all the deepfakes and with what's going on in the world today, Bitcoin is a chain of truth, and it's an immutable chain of truth as well. It can't be messed with. You can't go back and change the Genesis block.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's.
Or even you say if you want to try and change anything, if you go back, then you have to change every transaction or something on the way, which requires a lot of resources.
Yeah, if you want to change one thing, you've got to change everything.
Yeah.
And it's financial suicide is prohibitive.
Yeah.
It's it's going to cost too much energy to do that. Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to the next one.
What is the idea of only having 21 million Bitcoin in circulation? The 21 million cap is one of Bitcoin ETH's most important design choices. It was created as an explicit break from the traditional money system, where central banks can create new units at will. Key reasons for the hard cap: predictable supply. Everyone can see the schedule. New Bitcoins are issued as block rewards, and that reward halves roughly every 4 years. Over time, issuance trends towards zero. Protection from inflation. With fiat money, the supply can expand quickly, for example during wars, crises, or political promises, which can dilute the value of people's savings. Bitcoin's fixed supply is designed to prevent this type of monetary debasement. Digital scarcity. Scarcity is what gives assets like gold much of their monetary value. Bitcoin recreates scarcity in the digital realm. You can copy a file, but you can T-copy a Bitcoin without the network rejecting the duplicate. Fair rules for everyone. Because the issuance schedule is baked into the protocol and enforced by many independent nodes, no single person or institution can vote themselves extra coins. The rules apply equally to miners, early adopters, institutions, and newcomers. In practice, the 21 million cap makes each individual Bitcoin, and even each Satoshi, potentially very valuable if global adoption continues to grow, because you have a fixed number of units chasing a growing pool of users and capital.
So, there's 21 million. What's the reason for this 21 million? Why did it pick that number as the maximum number of Bitcoin? Could it be any number, or why?
Yeah, I think the actual number itself was arbitrary, but 21 million is quite nice. It's not too big, it's not too small, and I mean, really, it could have been one. It could have been one Bitcoin, and you'd have just been mining fractions of that one Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could put the entire economy in one Bitcoin, but 21 million is a nice number. It's if you look at other cryptocurrencies, if you've ever bothered to do that, there's actually a coin out there called there's Dogecoin, and that's one of the few other proof of work coins as well, which just happens to be that way. But there's I think it's trillions or quadrillions of them.
Right.
So yeah, so it means that their value is going to be. It's how much. Yeah, it's a difficult one to answer, and I don't really know how to answer it if I'm honest with you.
Here's a question I've got then. It's talking about Bitcoin, and this limited supply means it's less likely to collapse. Whatever, like if you think of Germany, the famous quote is, in the war before the Second World War, their currency got deflated that much. All their life savings was used to buy a loaf of bread, or they were papering their walls with it because the wallpaper is more expensive than the money.
Yeah.
But basically, Bitcoin, recently it was up at 80,000. Now it's down at 65,000.
Yeah.
But again, we're comparing that in terms of fiat currency.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like fiat currency is essentially, let's say, it disappears because it's like a Ponzi scheme ready to collapse.
Mm-hmm.
So then the Bitcoin, it wouldn't fluctuate against the fiat currency, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the Bitcoin doesn't just fluctuate against the fiat currency though. It also fluctuates against gold,
Right.
and it fluctuates against houses, and it fluctuates against any other asset that you use as a store of value.
Right. So why then, if it's is like this, it's built so that it doesn't fluctuate? Why is it fluctuating from 80,000 down to 65, and it's increasing as well, obviously?
Because the market's trying to decide what Bitcoin is and what it's worth. Or you know what I mean? Like gold's fluctuating at the minute. I don't know if you've seen what's happened to the gold price over the last 12 months.
It was quite high recently. Yeah.
It's currently sat at an all-time high, The silver price, see what's happened to the silver over the last year. But there's a difference between Bitcoin and gold and silver is that gold and silver both have... You've got to excuse me a minute, I've got to sort these dogs out. So, sorry, I was just saying, gold and silver, the difference between Bitcoin, the difference between new money and the old money being gold and silver, also have industrial utility, have an industrial purpose. Okay? Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin just has a monetary purpose. Bitcoin's whole purpose is to be a unit of account, a store of value, and a medium of exchange. Whereas you still need silver to go into solar panels and into technology, and you need gold to go into phones and to electrical contacts and whatever else. So gold and silver, they're industrial. They really are. They're industrial metals. And they're certainly going to become more so, in my opinion, as time goes on, because they're being used more and more in technology. Whereas Bitcoin is actually better suited to be a money, a unit account, store of value, and a medium of exchange, because it doesn't need to be used for anything else. I think that's one of its strong points. People trying to say, "Oh, what is the utility of Bitcoin?" Bitcoin's utility is a unit of account, a medium of exchange, and a store of value. That's its purpose. Yeah. I don't know if that actually answers the question you've just asked, but that's what you got anyway.
Basically, the fact there's only 21 million of them, and there is a proof of work element to it.
Yes,
it's less likely just to collapse down to zero, like as you mentioned earlier with what's happening in Iran or Germany in the past and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, the Bitcoin's is currently following Levinson's law, and Levinson's law states that the longer something's been around, the longer it's likely to be around. And Bitcoin was either going to go to zero or it's going to a million. And those are the words of Michael Saylor. That I'm not taking that as my own. And it hasn't gone to zero yet.
You have mentioned Michael Saylor a couple of times. Who is he? Yeah. And I know that Simon Dixon has
mentioned him. Yeah, well,
he's bad-mouthed him a little bit recently, saying that he's essentially flipped to working for the state.
Yeah. That is well Simon Dixon's opinion. But so basically, first of all, the first question is, who is Michael Saylor? He is the guy behind the company called Strategy B. The company was originally called MicroStrategy. And as far as I understand it, the company MicroStrategy used to be, or it was like a technology and software company, and they wrote computer programs for computer services. The guy realised that over COVID that his company was like a zombie company because they couldn't work. He got 500 million on his company balance sheet. Which he saw as a melting ice cube because of inflation, and so he was just losing value day by day, and he wanted to find something to do with it, and so he was the first company CEO to put Bitcoin on it as a treasury on his balance sheet, which has opened the floodgates for other companies to do that. They then pivoted from being a software company to being a crypto financial company, and they sell shares and do funding rounds to buy more Bitcoin, which makes their company worth more, so that they can then sell more shares to buy more Bitcoin, and this is like a circular economy in itself. I think the idea, that Simon Dixon's thesis is that when MicroStrategy has got enough of the supply of Bitcoin, then the US government's probably going to walk in and do the same attack that they did on the American people, confiscating all the gold in the 1930s. It's 6102 attack. Yeah, he gives a certain number. It's something 02. The attack it's called. It was an executive order that confiscated all the gold from the American people, made it illegal to hold gold in self custody.
All right, that's true. Yeah. So essentially, when is he holding people's Bitcoin and therefore is liable to attack? Whereas he's encouraging people to do that instead of putting it into self custody. Maybe.
Yeah. So basically, you're buying into the company. The company's buying the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So you're not buying the Bitcoin for yourself,
Yeah.
which makes it into a honeypot. There's nothing then stopping the government coming along and saying, right, we're going to incorporate that into our strategic reserve. What's he going to do to stop them?
Right. That's the issue. So let's move on to the next one.
In the digital. When will it reach that 21 million number? New Bitcoins are created as part of the block reward that miners receive when they successfully mine a block. This block subsidy started at 50 Bitcoin per block and halves roughly every 210,000 blocks, about every 4 years. This is known as the halving. Over time, these halvings make the new supply smaller and smaller. 50 Bitcoins, 25 Bitcoins, 12.5 Bitcoins, 6.25 Bitcoins, 3.125 Bitcoins, and so on. Because of this geometric sequence, Bitcoin will never quite reach exactly 21 million coins in a mathematical sense, but it will get extremely close. In practical terms, the maximum supply is treated as 21 million. The last tiny fractions of new Bitcoin are expected to be mined around the year 2140. After that point, no new Bitcoins will be created. Miners will be paid only in transaction fees from users who want their transactions included in blocks. So, we're already most of the way there in terms of issuance. The remaining coins will be dripped out very slowly over the next century or so.
So, this is, again, we're talking about 21 million. So, right now, miners are getting awarded with Bitcoin. Where's that coming from?
It's coming out of the program, pal, is the best answer I can give you. Whoever is winning that block reward programmatically, it comes from the Bitcoin program.
So up until 2140, when the amount is kind of every 10 minutes they're calculating a certain amount, and then if that happens right up until 2140, it'll reach roughly the 21 million mark, and then the miners at that point will essentially be only doing transactions and getting paid for the transactions.
Yeah, it'll just be the transaction fees.
And then that'll be coming out of people's actual amount. It won't be new created Bitcoin.
No, it won't be any new created Bitcoin. All the Bitcoin that's there will be there. It'll either be transacted with or held in cold storage, held securely, or if you're one of the unlucky ones, it'll be lost. And if it can be lost forever, and then that nobody will be able to transact with that Bitcoin, so there's actually less for people to use, which makes it more scarce.
Yeah. Would it still be worth miners doing the transactions? I mean, do you need these miners to do a transaction? I mean, we talked about the peer-to-peer. If I'm transferring from me to you, is there a transaction fee involved?
Yeah, there will be like a few satoshis in the transaction. It'll go to whoever mines that block. So when the miners are still mining the blocks after 2140, it's just that they're not getting that block reward. The payout supply is paid out, and that's it. And so what they'll be getting is the transaction fees. So what it comes down to is how much information is in that block. And that's actually to do with UTXOs. And a UTXO, again, it's like jargon and language. A UTXO is an unspent transaction order. Because the next sentence I'm going to tell you will blow your mind. There's not actually such a thing as a Bitcoin. Okay. Right? All there is UTXOs. Right? And UTXOs, like a UTXO over 100 million is what you call, 100 million Satoshis is what you call one Bitcoin.
Right.
Yeah. It's how we use the language to define the reality that we're living in. Yeah.
So is it still going to be financially worthwhile for these miners to do the transactions?
I would imagine it is. I would imagine it is.
Because you didn't want to get to a point where nobody's going to mine if it's not going to be worth.
Yeah, all of a sudden, because that's something that I asked when I first started looking at Bitcoin. It's like, well, when the last ones, then what's the point then?
Yeah.
How will anybody make any money? Which is the question you're asking, really.
Yeah.
How do I make some money out of this? Well, if the money is the money itself, right? And what you're doing is you're creating value by packaging and sending and running that node. Mining those blocks for the Bitcoin. That's how you're creating the value, and the value you receive is the transaction fees.
Do you think I would put the fees up, percentage wise?
The fees are a market in themselves anyway. Even at this point, Billy,
Right.
you can pick when you send in Bitcoin if you want to pay a high price for your transaction, a medium price, or a low point price. And what that does is that gives you a priority being added to the next block. You're telling the miners how important it is for this transaction to be completed.
Right. And that puts you up.
Well, obviously, if you're prepared to pay a higher price, you're going to be preferred. They're going to pick you first. Whereas you can actually transact without any fees, but you're not going to do it on the base layer. You can do it on the Lightning Network, and that's something else that I tried when I started using Strike app. Is because I'd never transacted on the Lightning Network. I wanted to try that, and Strike app has the Lightning Network feature on it. And I also found out that you could just say that you didn't want to pay any fees, and it would go when it would go. And I think it took about, I don't know, it's been about 11 or 12 hours for the transaction to go through.
Right.
Until it got into a block. But I was willing to wait because it was an amount at the time I weren't that worried about losing.
That's still not too bad though, really.
Mm-hmm.
Some bank payments can take longer than that using Swift or sometimes,
yeah. Or I could have ensured it was in the next block and paid maybe a couple of quid for it. I could pay for that peace of mind. But I've got the choice. I don't have to abide by somebody else's rules.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's the rules of the network, and I'm not messing about with the bankers' rules that want their cut every time. They're called Shylock for a reason. You know what I mean? They want their pound of flesh.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the times I've had to transfer money abroad, even Great Western Union, I found was a bit cheaper. But the bank fees when you don't use them are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And again, they're not doing anything. It's just digital numbers, really. So that's why you kind of resent them.
Yeah. Like I say, there's nothing stopping you transacting with your friends or family in Turkey across the Bitcoin network, all right, and not having a third party involved.
Yeah.
You can straight to your son or your family or whoever else that you want to deal with. Why have a third party involved?
Yeah.
Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? CIA. Satoshi Nakamoto is the pseudonym used by the creator, or creators, of Bitcoin. We know Satoshi wrote the original white paper in 2008, released the first version of the software in 2009, and communicated on forums and by email for a couple of years. Around 2010-2011, Satoshi gradually handed over responsibility to other developers and then disappeared from public view, stopping all known communication. The identity behind the name has never been conclusively proven. Many theories exist that Satoshi is an individual cypherpunk, a small group of developers, or even some government agency like the NSA or CIA. So far, there is no solid evidence that convinces the broader technical community that any particular person or organization is Satoshi. 2 important points. The code is open source. Anyone can inspect or run it. The system doesn't require trusting Satoshi as a person. It relies on maths, cryptography, and consensus among thousands of nodes. Satoshi S coins appear untouched. The large stash mined by Satoshi in the early days has, as far as anyone can tell from on-chain analysis, not moved. If Satoshi were primarily motivated by greed or control, it would be strange not to cash in at any point. So, while Satoshi equals CIA is a popular conspiracy theory, there's no hard evidence for it. What we do know is that the system, as it exists today, runs independently of whoever Satoshi was.
So what's his name? Satoshi Nakamori?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Nakamoto. Yes. Now, first of all, we're saying this is the guy that essentially created Bitcoin. He's wrote a white paper. Have you seen this white paper? Is it available online?
The Bitcoin white paper is available at bitcoin.org.
Right. And that's basically just the protocol of just saying what Bitcoin is and how to use it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just bringing the link back to you now, Billy.
Okay.
It is there.
Let's have a look at that. 2 seconds.
Go back to that. What do I need to get started with Bitcoin? So we've got an introduction here. So, yeah, it's there's the white paper down at the bottom there.
Mm-hmm.
Paper that first introduced Bitcoin.
So this Satoshi Nakamoto came out of nowhere, really, and published this paper.
Yeah, so basically, it was back in the day when the internet was using forums. You know, like when we used to get together, the all interest groups together.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was basically a bunch of people that were interested in cryptography and cypherpunks, and that's where Satoshi dropped his white paper to begin with in the forums, and got people talking about it.
And with that white paper, he had the protocol, he had the program.
Yeah, so he wrote the program.
But we don't actually know who this Satoshi is. There's been a couple of guesses.
No, it's a pseudonym. Like the thing said, some people think it was the CIA, and that's certainly Simon Dixon's thesis. There are others that think it's Hal Finney. He's a guy that was deeply involved in the development of Bitcoin in the early stages and then disappeared. I believe it was health issues the guy's put on ice. Yeah.
Well, there's a thing about this Satoshi having so many Bitcoin.
Yeah, so because he was the first person to mine, he mined the Genesis block, which I referred to earlier, and that was on January the 3rd, 2009. Yeah, and so obviously because he was the only guy that was mining blocks, he was the only person that was getting the rewards, and his Bitcoin has never moved out of his wallets. And so there's actually a honeypot. They reckon it's something just over 1 million Bitcoin that are attributed to ownership of Satoshi Nakamoto.
So people think if that went onto the system, the value would drop of everyone else's Bitcoin or something like that, because Simon referred to that a few times.
I think it may drive. I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's a multifaceted question. How did the wallet get opened in the first place? I mean, was it Satoshi that opened the wallet, or was that wallet hacked? You know what I mean? The fact that he mined those, left the community, and they've never been touched is a really powerful message for the Bitcoin network, because it says that anybody that wants to come and try and find the weakness, here's the reward for you. Here's a honeypot.
All right.
You know what I mean? And that shows me that actually Bitcoin's anti-fragile. 17 years the network it's been running now. Nobody's touched his wallets.
Right.
I think in the future, people have said to me, "Are you worried about quantum computers being a problem to the network?" And I'm like, "Well, not really. I'm not upset." And there's going, "Oh, it's going to zero because quantum computers they can just open all the boxes at once." But I don't think these people realise if people are going to use quantum computers to attack the network, the fact that they'll be using quantum computers to back the network as well. They're using normal computers to attack the network at the minute, and normal computers are running the strongest, most powerful network in the world. Why wouldn't we get onto to quantum resistance? That's something that's being worked on now. That's it's one of the things FUD in the space. FUD standing for fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which is what you get from the mainstream media quite a lot. Oh no, the skies are falling on our head. It's going to zero. Yeah.
We've also got what's that guy's name? He used to be a news presenter in America, and now he's become alternative.
Tucker Carlson, Fox News. Carlson.
He's came out and said, "Don't trust Bitcoin because it's CIA." And apparently, his father was in the CIA, and he's obviously a shill or whatever. And again, he's bad mouthing the Bitcoin and the fact that it's CIA. Now, why, if it was the CIA, why would the CIA put this out there? And surely again, that's the last thing they would do, would give us a money, or maybe that's their way of securing their assets, as we mentioned before.
Yeah,
down the line.
I think there's a couple of ways that you could look at that. First of all, did the CIA do it or didn't they do it? At this point, I don't think it matters who created Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is open. The program, it's all open source, so anybody can go onto GitHub and verify the code for themselves and see that there's not a backdoor into Bitcoin. Okay, so they can't mess about with Bitcoin in ways that change the core program without having consensus of at least, I think it's at least 95% of the network has to agree, which is one of the things that make Bitcoin really strong. If Bitcoin if Bitcoin was then built by the CIA after all, and the people that are saying that are right, then why did they do that? And again, this is the ideas of Simon Dixon. I think what he said makes a lot of sense. Is Bitcoin is there as the alternative, all right, and it's put there because they want the majority tied up in CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies with digital IDs and passports to work and everything controlled and tracked. But if that's the case, how are they going to operate? There needs to be a separate system. All right, and Bitcoin is that separate system, which is, if you've got it yourself, nobody can stop you.
Some people were saying that it was actually, they used Bitcoin as a way to introduce this idea of digital currency, and now we've got Trump and that talking about stable coins and stuff like that. So they're just using this idea of digital currency, but they've had that one, but they're not focusing on it. They're creating these other ones now to divert away.
The thing is, though, we've actually had digital currencies way before Bitcoin. It's just that we don't. It's not what we. And there are banking digital currencies as well. The banks have been transacting digitally for years now, for many years. Yeah. It might be the case that they wanted to bring that then to the masses. That might have been a way to do it, but I think Bitcoin was the wrong way to go about it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so to me it makes sense that as you say, they've got an alternative one, so they can store their own wealth without it being controlled and monitored. Yeah, and it's up to us to essentially, the more people that buy Bitcoin, it stops BlackRock and all that getting their hands on it. So we need as many people to start using it and holding it in self-custody as possible. Yeah, and make it more mainstream. In fact, I'm going to a digital ID protest tomorrow. I don't think shouting in the streets and rah 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 is going to solve anything. I'm just going to meet a few people. I'm actually going to promote my show that I'm doing called Conspiracy Theorist, but because it's a crowd that might be interested in it. If I do get a chance to grab the mic, which potentially could happen, I'm going to tell people about Bitcoin. And this is part of the reason why we're doing this show as well, to try and get the word out there, to get people to look at it as a real alternative. If you want to fight the system will generally win. But if you work around it and step outside of it, essentially, that's the way to take the power back. and stop using their tools because we were enslaved by their money, which is the main weapon I think they've got. Anyway, let's move on to the next one.
How does Bitcoin differ from other cryptocurrencies? There are thousands of other cryptocurrencies, altcoins, but Bitcoin remains different in several important ways. 1. Purpose and focus. Bitcoin's main goal is to be sound, decentralized money, a store of value and medium of exchange with a fixed supply and strong security. Many altcoins focus on other things: smart contracts, DeFi, NFTs, high-speed payments, or experimental features. 2. Decentralization and history. Bitcoin launched in a very fair way. No pre-mine, no venture capital allocation, no founders keeping a giant slice for themselves. The software was released publicly, and anyone could mine from day one. Many altcoins launched later with large insider allocations or heavy corporate control. 3. Security and conservatism. Bitcoin is conservative about changes. Upgrades are rare, slow, and heavily reviewed because the priority is not to break the money. Some altcoins move fast and experiment more, but that can mean more bugs, hacks, and unexpected rule changes. 4. Network effects. Bitcoin has the largest and most decentralized mining network, the most full nodes, and the deepest liquidity. That makes it harder to attack and easier to buy or sell in size. 5. Monetary policy. Bitcoin's 21 million cap and predictable halving schedule are widely known and trusted. Many altcoins have more flexible or less transparent supply rules. In short, Bitcoin is trying to be the base layer of global digital money, while most other cryptocurrencies are more like tech startups or experiments with different trade-offs.
Okay, the screen's moved on to the side there, but basically we're talking about different types of cryptocurrencies because when we first started talking to you and you recommended Bitcoin, you're also telling me to buy Ethereum. And then all of a sudden one day you said to me, Billy, get rid of that Ethereum, get everything onto Bitcoin. What was your idea, and what do you think about these other cryptocurrencies and why they're not worth investing in at all? Again, Simon Dixon, he keeps on going on about don't buy other crypto, because some people are like putting some money in, trying to make money short term and then back onto Bitcoin and all this kind of stuff, you know, rather than just sticking to Bitcoin, which is the realization that you came to, yeah?
Yeah. So, I used to buy Ethereum when I first started looking into it and started researching. And I stopped buying Ethereum because it moved from a proof of work model to a proof of stake model. Obviously, the more Ethereum you've got, the more of a stake in the network you have. Whereas that does not, it doesn't work transact the same way with Bitcoin. All right, the proof of work is your is the big thing with Bitcoin. If you do the work,
it's the same across the whole system. Whereas proof of stake, if you've got more, say BlackRock or whatever, own more Ethereum, they can control the value of it more. And
yeah. So with the Bitcoin network is you don't have to own any Bitcoin to run a Bitcoin mine or a node. Okay, you could go onto the bitcoin.org, download the relevant information, download the core program and the drivers, right? Run that and join in and be part of that network. Okay, and because you've done that work, you get to have a say. If you're on the Ethereum network now, to be a miner, you need to own at least 32 Ethereum. Now, I don't know what the price of Ethereum is today. I would imagine it's over £1,000. I will just have a quick look and share the Google page with you. It is currently Ethereum sat at 2,170 today. Here we go. It is there. So yeah, and to be able to work as part of the the people that verify the network, you need to have a stake of at least 32 Ethereum.
Yeah.
Which puts quite a big barrier to entry on Ethereum. Yeah, which is why I straight away it went from proof of work to proof of stake, and that was it for me. And and then if you go to crypto bubbles, what that tells you there on that picture is the first 100 cryptocurrencies in the crypto space for market value. Out of about 6 million, what is around about 6 or 7 million different cryptocurrencies now, because there's thousands more being generated every single day. But that picture that you're looking at is, I'll just double check, I believe it's market cap. So if you see on that big Bitcoin bubble, it's the biggest bubble in that space, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the next one to it actually is the second biggest one, happens to be Ethereum. But it's a really great example of why I'm more interested in Bitcoin than anything else. The total market cap of Ethereum there is 262.14 billion. And Bitcoin's market cap is 1.32 trillion. Well, the 0.32 is 320 billion.
What does market cap mean?
So the market cap is how much value is in that space. So it's the price of Bitcoin. Let me just double check. Do you know what? I'm just going to Google the answers to make sure I tell it to you right.
I would think it'd be the amount of Bitcoin that people have in storage. That's the value of it.
So according to Google, the Bitcoin market cap represents the total dollar value of all mined Bitcoin, calculated by multiplying the current price by the circulating supply.
Yeah.
Currently is about 19.7 million Bitcoin circulating. All right, and that acts as your primary Bitcoin size, its stability and market dominance compared to other cryptocurrencies. So, next question that I'll have to ask off that then is, what's Bitcoin's market dominance? So, out of the entire crypto space, how much of that space does Bitcoin hold? So that's dominance. Currently, Bitcoin has 59.2% of the market.
Yeah.
So of the entire market space of, over 6 million different coins, over 50% of all that value is in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So my question back is like, why am I so into Bitcoin? My question back to anybody that asks me that is, what else am I going to buy? Bitcoin's number one. Why would I sell number one for number two, or the first of the losers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's number one because people trust it more and people recognise it as being better, basically. Yeah,
it's the Bitcoin was pristine. It's almost like it was almost like a Christian experience as far as I'm concerned. It was immaculately conceived. It was put out there. It was very fragile and very centralized when it started, and it flowered into what it was. Whilst the powers that be had their eyes on other things and wasn't paying attention, Bitcoin grew, and that goes back to Hayek's quote back in the 80s. I'll have to bring that back up for you now. What that quote is.
That's assuming the CIA didn't create it.
Well, it doesn't matter even if the CIA did create it. It can't be co-opted now. Do you know there's no backdoor into it? We've looked on GitHub. So and there needs to be consensus. It was given to the world, and now it's the world's control.
So, as you mentioned there, Christian, some people do think it is almost a spiritual tool. Whether it is or not is up for debate. But it's like certainly it could be a solution, because people think the military and financial are two different things. Obviously, industrial complexes are controlling the world, through the petrodollar, which is backed. So that we need continual war for the West to dominate, so-called, And once, if we invest into Bitcoin, we're taking our money out of their system. So it's a way to stop war, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Back in the day when Britain was on the gold standard, right, for us to go to war for the the Napoleonic Wars is a great example, because that was when the Rothschilds made their fortune. So for Britain to go to war, they had to raise a tax to pay for the troops, and if the people didn't want it, they wouldn't pay the taxes, would they? Okay, so you're very much down to convincing the people that actually going to war was a good thing. And if you couldn't convince the people that was right, you weren't going to war. You didn't have a war chest. When they took us off the gold standard, they could just print the money and buy the weapons and pay the foot soldiers. But
yeah, I watched an interesting video on YouTube recently. Oh, I don't know if you shared it with me, but some of rich men or something. It was like a 4-hour documentary that just explains how all wars are bankers' wars, and it goes into all this.
I remember. I can't remember the one it was, but I remember sending you stuff like that. All wars are bankers' wars, and they are. All wars are bankers' wars. If we go back to pristine money, if you go back to a proof of work system, then you're going to have peace again, because we're incentivized for peace and cooperation, and creating value and art together. We're disincentivized to go to war, because you spend all your Bitcoin going to war, and then you've lost all your Bitcoin, and then you've got nothing.
Aye. This is true. I was going to say something else there, but I forgot. So let's continue on to the next one.
Okay.
Why is it important to hold Bitcoin in self-custody? Self-custody means you control your own private keys instead of trusting an exchange, bank, or broker to hold your Bitcoin for you. The saying in the Bitcoin world is, not your keys, not your coins. Reasons self-custody matters. Exchange risk, centralized platforms can be hacked, go bankrupt, get frozen by regulators, or run off with customer funds, as happened with Mt. Gox, FTX, and others. If your coins are on such a platform, you're just an unsecured creditor. Censorship resistance. One of Bitcoin's core features is that no one should be able to stop you from transacting. If a custodian controls your coins, they can refuse withdrawals or block payments under pressure from governments or banks. Sovereignty. Holding your own keys means your savings don't depend on the health of any particular company or country. You can, in principle, cross a border with your wealth stored in your memory, your seed phrase, without declaring anything. Learning and responsibility, self-custody forces you to understand how Bitcoin actually works at a basic level, which makes you harder to scam. The flip side is that self-custody requires care. You must protect your seed phrase, avoid phishing, and plan for backups and inheritance. But for many Bitcoiners, that responsibility is worth it for the freedom it provides.
So yeah, we just talked about that already, this self-custody. You get a wallet, it's like a hard disk, and you take it off the exchange like Coinbase, transfer it to your wallet, get some, in some cases it can be like 24 words or something like that. And you can actually memorise those words rather than write them down as well.
Yeah, 12 or 24 word seed phrase.
Yeah.
There's a company out in the space called Stampseed, and what they do is they sell titanium plates and stamping kits. So they're saying don't etch the metal, stamp it and do it well. And titanium will withstand fires way stronger than like a normal house fire and what have you. It's got a really high melting point. Obviously, it's resistant to water as well, and so it makes it very hard to destroy.
Yeah, so you can buy a kit and then stamp your
you stamp it onto that titanium plate, and then put that titanium plate somewhere safe.
Aye.
Yeah.
Don't lose that. I've seen a couple of videos recently online of somebody's deleted their phrase.
Seed phrase. Yeah.
And they've lost the plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've lost their cash.
Yeah. Same as the guy that it was in, I think it's Hereford or somewhere out that way, Bridgend maybe, and he had a 7,000 or 8,000 Bitcoin on a hard drive or a laptop, and that went to landfill.
Aye.
Yeah.
So he spent 5 years searching. He's given up recently, but every day he was out there looking for it because it's like God knows how many million now of fiat currency on it.
Yeah.
So you shared a couple of things there. You brought them up, but you wanted to show them anytime?
So the first one, I wanted to go back to that quote from Hayek, which is on the Google page, which I think is really, really quite telling. And his quote was, "I don't believe we shall ever have good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government." That's not the full. That's not the full quote though.
This one.
I'll go back to the page. So yeah, but that's not actually the full quote.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, he's saying that we need to go very quietly and change the money system without them noticing, and that's pretty much what Bitcoin did.
Aye. Yep. Again, at that book, The Creature of Jekyll Island, if you look at that, you see how all these bankers from different banks who are supposedly competitors have decided to get together in a secret meeting, and somehow that has become public knowledge. But at the time, obviously, it wasn't. That's essentially the cabal, which is illegal, to monopolise money, and that's what's in control of the world.
Yeah, G. Edward Griffin. That was a really fascinating read. That was.
Yeah, for people who don't like to read, it's actually available on YouTube. You can listen to the audiobook there.
Yeah, and Audible. It's there as well.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
And there is another book we'll recommend when we're on the subject of books, is the Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Yes,
which I have a copy of here. As it happens, old John Perkins.
And that's about...
I've also got that as well. So basically, the Confessions of an Economic Hitman is about like money guys that work for they work for the CIA, and they went into countries and they bribed politicians and people with power, and they corrupted them, and then basically went to them to get contracts for utilities and power and minerals and all the wealth. And if the guys that they tried to corrupt and bribe didn't play ball with them and sign the contracts, they'd send in the Jekylls and send in the hitmen.
Aye, very nefarious stuff. But when there's a lot of money and power at stake, people do, let's say, not very moralistic things, not good choices, but they benefit it in this world. I've seen a quote. I think it was a comedian. Just a 20-second clip he had on TikTok or whatever, saying, people talk about differences these days, left, right, black, white, Jew, Christian. He says essentially there's two types of people in the world: cunts and fucking non-cunts.
Yeah.
And the worrying thing is the cunts appear to be doing rather well these days.
Yeah.
So using these type of things, but again, some people believe that this Bitcoin is a solution to these type of things, and certainly countries in Africa like that, they can start taking control of their own resources and stuff, because they go in the IMF, they get a loan, they force them in a position to take loans from the IMF, and then they have to pay back that loan. As soon as you get a loan from even a mortgage, these banks have a say in what you can do. So that's in the small terms, and countries will get into debt. When you're in debt to these corporations, they have hidden clauses where they've got power over you that you don't know about.
Yeah.
But essentially they do.
It's like George Carlin said, it's one big club and you went in it.
Aye.
And that's the same club that used to beat you.
Yeah, that's a good one. Right, you want the next one?
Can you use Bitcoin instead of cash? Yes, you can use Bitcoin to pay for goods and services, but it is not yet as universally accepted as cash or bank cards. On-chain payments. You can send Bitcoin directly from one wallet to another, anywhere in the world. Transactions settle roughly every 10 minutes and are final after several confirmations. Fees can vary depending on how busy the network is. Lightning Network and other layers. The Lightning Network is a second-layer protocol built on top of Bitcoin that allows instant, very low-fee payments. It is well-suited for small, everyday transactions like buying coffee, tipping, or paying at a market stall. Real-world use today, some online shops, charities, freelancers, and physical businesses accept Bitcoin directly. In a few places, for example El Salvador, Bitcoin has legal tender status and is used more widely day to day. However, there are limitations. Many shops still don't accept it. In some countries, there are unclear or unfriendly tax rules. For example, capital gains on spending BTC. Price volatility can make it awkward as a unit of account. So you can think of Bitcoin today as a hybrid, part digital gold, store of value, and part currency. Over time, if adoption grows and tools improve, it may be used more widely as everyday money.
So here's the thing about it. That sometimes I wonder. So you've got so many Bitcoin, and yeah, it's got this much value in the fiat currency world, but we're not really using it as money. The idea is to put it aside 4 years down the line, it'll be worth more, and then say I bought £100, and say 4 years later it's worth, say, £10,000. Then I can sell that Bitcoin with my £10,000 because that's increased more in value than inflation. So you're making bigger profit than holding it in a bank.
Yeah.
And then I can buy something physical in the real world.
You're still thinking in a fiat system within a fiat system, Billy.
Yeah.
What you've just said is you want to sell your Bitcoin. You're not going to sell your Bitcoin. You're going to spend your Bitcoin.
Right, but
all right, because Bitcoin will end up as the medium of exchange.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, though. Because right now you're not thinking about spending Bitcoin. You know, you're almost saying, right, I'm not spending that. I'm saving it. Because if I start to spend it, it's gone, and then I'm not going to get this monetary gain over 4 years. But the idea is we start doing everything in Bitcoin. We start buying things. We start working, getting paid in Bitcoin. So you've got Bitcoin coming in, then Bitcoin going out, which is the monetary system.
That's known as spend and replace. So you know what I mean? I could do that if I had more people to transact with, and I have transacted with a select few people within Bitcoin because that possibility and that opportunity was there for me. And the more the network grows, by and by, the network will become more usable. You got to think about the internet is a really good example, and think about back in the 90s when it first came out, and we were all sat there on dial-up at 2 o'clock in the morning on what was the chat rooms, AOL chat and stuff like that. We were all sat there on chat rooms and trying to get to it, and it was very clunky, it was very hard to use, and it was nerdy people like myself that took the time and the effort to play with the internet and learn about it. Okay, and that was back in the day when it was really starting to take off. 30 years later, 60% of the world has got at least 60% of the world has got a mobile phone in their pocket with the internet on it. That's massive growth of a network, and that's described by Metcalfe's law. And he came up with those ideas looking at the growth of Bitcoin nodes, of the internet, of how the nodes on the internet grew and how all the infrastructure got built out. And Bitcoin is acting in a very similar way to the internet, except it's doing it faster.
Right. So basically it's going to get adopted more and more, and it's going to become more commonplace to use it. But right now, it's probably better just to sit in it and let it grow.
yeah, if that's if that's where you are and what you're at, then that's brilliant. But then obviously there's like we just stated earlier, there's countries in Africa that are using Bitcoin to transact on daily because that's all that they've got, and then that helps them interact with the rest of the world. You know, it's happening there. It's happening in Venezuela. It's happening in Costa Rica. The use case for Bitcoin in the Ukraine when the war kicked off. You know, Bitcoin's for your friends and for your enemies. It's, again, that's not my quote. I don't know who was actually credited with that one, but I like it. I think it was probably Matthew Cratter. Yeah, like the Russians when they invaded the Ukraine, and all of a sudden we had the banking sanctions, all the sanctions against them, and all the assets that were frozen. Right. All they did is they just changed rails. They went, okay, we just won't transact in the dollar anymore. Problem solved. Do you know? We'll set up BRICS. We'll really get work on the BRICS currency, and we'll make much more use of Bitcoin and gold.
Yeah, which is part of the reason what's going on in the world is like there's people talk about one cabal and a new world order. Although ultimately I do think they are kind of it's like different factions of the mafia competing together on competing against each other on one level, but the same wanting to keep their little game going because they're all up to their eyes in child trafficking and all the rest of it. So they're all playing a dirty game, but there's no one controlling cabal that maybe David Icke will talk about. It's actually changed over time to different factions vying for power, so it's like a multipolar world order that we're kind of heading towards.
Yeah.
And the fact that China and stuff have got their own currency, they're getting to buy oil and getting countries to sell them oil in the yen and whatever outside of the petrodollar, and Trump is setting up Palantir and stuff like that to turn America, on one hand make America great again, but on the other hand turn it into like a regional currency, not to be the world superpower anymore, because BlackRock and stuff like that don't care about countries. They're just interested in the money and the control.
Yeah, I think it's quite funny. I think they've already told us what they were going to do. And they told us many years ago, and then me and you met over lockdown, over your shooting the shit videos. That's where we found a common thread. All right, and they told us then that we was going to eat Z-bugs. All right, you would own nothing and be happy. They've repeated the same thing for years. Right. But you just mentioned something about BlackRock and the WEF. Like, you know what I mean? It's all planned. It's all pre-programmed. And then during that time, and I'm on a bit of a rant at the minute. I appreciate it, but you know about the Georgia Guidestones, right? Yeah. The monolith that was in a Georgia National Park in America, and it blew up. Yeah. All right, that was the second interesting thing about the Georgia Guidestone, that it blew up. The first interesting thing about the Georgia Guidestones was all the writings in 12 different languages on it, 8 modern languages and 4 ancient languages, and it set up the ideas for the New World Order. And the first thing that they said on that was that they were going to reduce the population in perpetuity to 500 million. Yeah. Okay, so they're going to kill us all. Right, and then we're going to, they go on to say that we're going to own nothing, we're going to live in balance with harmony. They've already decided how it's going to be. They've laid the plans, and now it's being implemented.
In a pre-technological world, it's like the people were assets because they could work and pay taxes, but now they're liabilities.
Yes.
They need fed and whatever, so feed them shite, slowly poison them off. There's not somebody with a gun to their head murdering them.
No.
But they're choosing to take the vaccine, they're choosing to eat these foods.
Yeah, get rid of the useless eaters.
Yeah. And the technology, the AI and the robotics that are getting brought in more and more. I've seen a shop in China, this little cubicle kind of thing, like a portal cabin. You go up to the window, put in your QR code or some kind of tapping thing. This robot turns around, goes to the fridge, takes out your cola, comes back and brings it to you. And it's just a sign of things to come, really.
Yeah, totally. But again, we've all been told about this. You know what I mean? We were saying earlier about the WEF and BlackRock.
Yeah.
But there's just been a change of lineup at the WEF because Klaus Schwab, the guy that founded it, has run it for over 50 years, has just stepped down.
Yeah.
And do you have any idea who's taken over as co-chair in his place?
I couldn't tell you his name offhand, but I know
Well,
that.
I can tell you the name offhand. It's Larry Fink.
Larry Fink, I was going to say.
And Larry Fink just so happens to be the head of BlackRock, which is the biggest asset management company in the world, with $10 trillion worth of assets under management.
Well, again, the WF is having a Davos just now, and everything they're saying is totally in line with with their. It's just crazy that guy's sitting there. They're all making the hand signal, which is.
Yeah, and they all say the quiet parts out loud as well.
That's right.
They really do.
To the wall now. They don't care.
Yeah, and they look quite smug saying it, thinking that it's like you do realise that we understand that the opposite is true.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. They don't care. There's the narratives out there, and I'm a postman, so I walk around and I see people's TVs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unbelievable just how these messages are going on, because people are sitting there watching the news and I can see, I can't watch it very much because I know they're all evil cunts, but they're taking in all this WF information and the news, whatever that is, the programme, and I just find it very sad how we're all sitting in these houses, and most people, again, even in my work, people talk about stuff, but it's on that surface level, like somebody the other day was like, "Oh, Donald Trump, he's fucking out of control, and this is not right." And I'm like, he's a puppet. Oh, he's going a bit senile. I said, I don't even think he's the original Donald Trump. I think he's a clone and stuff like that.
It may not be. Something I found interesting about Trump though is his family connections, because I think it was his uncle was part of the FBI.
Yeah.
And when Nikola Tesla died, it was actually Trump's uncle that went in and confiscated all his gear, confiscated all his notes, and that's all disappeared.
And we're just meant to think that he's just some guy like them all that just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they've got no connections, Elon Musk and all that. They're all actors, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Elon Musk. His old man was an emerald miner anyway. It's not as if he didn't come from money.
Aye.
It's like same as Bezos. He came from money as well. Same as what's the guy's name? The trader. What's his face? Do you know? What's his name? Charlie Munger was his partner that's just died. What's his face? Oh, fuck, I got to Google it.
Just what you were talking about as well, the club they hit us with, we are kind of controlled with the threat of violence, you know what I mean? It's not explicit, but if we do anything the system doesn't like, guys can appear at your door and fucking physically assault you and take you to the prize zone or the prison.
Yeah.
So there is an underlying threat of violence controlling people.
What was his name? There's his face. Where is it? Buffett. It was sorry.
All right.
I had to Google it. Yeah, Warren Buffett, weren't it? Warren Buffett. He came from money as well. Sorry. Could you say that again? I wasn't paying attention.
I was just thinking about, you mentioned before the George Carlin, a big club, and then that's a club that hit you with.
Yes.
That's how we're controlled. It's not explicit, but there is an underlying threat of violence. If you do anything the state doesn't like, the Gestapo or whatever can appear at your door and take you away, and
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have a child, you have a baby, you've got to go and register it. Why? And they say if you don't register the baby, you're going to get fined.
Well, they're saying these days if you don't give it a digital ID, the parents can get arrested.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. It makes your blood boil, you know what I mean? I'm aware of what's going on in the world. I've kind of looked at it for a number of years, but I don't like to dwell on it too much, because you say, what can you do about it? Well, this is something we can do about it, which is kind of why I'm interested in it.
You can vote with your wallet is what you can do.
Aye, exactly.
And that's the thing that's what's given me hope, amongst other things. The fact that it's a scarce, programmatically scarce supply. It can't be changed, can't be messed with. And if you hold it for yourself, they can't mess with it.
Plus the fact though, buying locally and stepping away from the Tesco's and your like, are all controlled as well. You know what I mean? Bringing in their scanners and your self-service and you're getting your picture taken and pay with your face and all this kind of stuff is part of the system. So again, we're funding our own demise by using their money, using their blockchain supermarkets and stuff like that. And,
yeah, it's keeping quiet and complying.
Yeah.
All right, it goes back. Speak now, forever hold your peace. Yeah. That's what he says at the wedding, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. And that it's all the way through. They put it all up on the Georgia Guidestones. Speak out against it or hold your peace. All right, those that quietly complied with the vaccines. All right, they went along with it. All right, you and I, we spoke out against it.
Yeah.
All right, we made it been known that we opposed one way or another. You put yourself a great shoot and shit programs together, and I walk around smiling, not wearing a mask, saying I don't comply.
Aye. Yep. I mean, I'm still getting the backlash over that. You know what I mean? There's a certain amount of he's a nutter, he's crazy, whatever, and ultimately you're trying to inform and help people, but some people just can't be helped, and maybe it's natural selection and action, who knows what.
Yeah. You got to remember though, in the Matrix, there's so much that's given away in the media though, in show business. In the Matrix, they say a mind comes to a certain age and it can't be unplugged anymore. Oh. And there's them that are so entrenched in the system that they will fight to maintain the system. It's the Agent Smith idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that they're so programmed to it that they will fight for it.
It's crazy that
you
see it coming out in people. You go outside the box of television reality, one step out, and then the agent appears and batters you back in there.
Yeah.
It's crazy shit. On to the next one.
If fiat currency collapses, how will Bitcoin still have value? If a fiat currency collapses, through hyperinflation, loss of trust, or political chaos, people look for alternative stores of value and media of exchange. Historically, they have turned to things like gold, foreign currencies, or hard assets, land, goods, commodities. Bitcoin could play a similar role because it is not tied to any single country or central bank. Its supply is fixed and cannot be increased to bail out failing institutions. It can be moved across borders quickly, which is crucial in crises. For Bitcoin to have value after a fiat collapse, people would simply need to keep accepting it for goods and services. As long as there are buyers and sellers who agree one Bitcoin is worth X loaves of bread or Y liters of fuel, it has value, regardless of what happens to a specific paper currency. In a severe global crisis, there would likely be a messy transition period where many assets reprice violently and markets are chaotic. Bitcoin is not magic protection from all hardship, but its properties make it a candidate for holding value when confidence in government money erodes. Ultimately, value is a social phenomenon. If enough people believe Bitcoin is a reliable way to store and transfer purchasing power, it will retain value, even if a particular national currency fails.
Yeah, so again, just what we're talking about in examples being Iran or Russia there, doesn't matter what the fiat currency does, this Bitcoin has the inherent value, so then you just say, right, I'll give you 0.1 Bitcoin for that car. Deal? Mm-hmm. Deal. Kind of thing.
So we've got a great real-time example of the question that has just been asked there. So you said if the currency went to zero, what would happen to Bitcoin? Didn't it?
Yeah.
And if you go to the Google page that I've got there, it's actually got the Iranian rial on it against the Bitcoin price.
Is it that one?
That's the one. Okay, and it tells you there what's happened to Bitcoin. So I've set it up in the box. It says 0.01 Bitcoin. Right, you can see how many Iranian rial that is.
Yeah.
I can't count that. I can't say that number. I'm not too sure. I'd have to take a run up at it.
Quite a lot.
It is. It's a very big number, isn't it? And that's 1 million Satoshis. Now, 1 million Satoshis against GBP for a second. Where are we? Oh, no, is it PS, isn't it? Is it pounds? Pound sterling. There we go. So, 1 million Satoshis is £660 and 55 pence. Right? If we go back to what it was as a real again. Okay. All right. So whatever that number here is the equivalent to what do we say? £660 and 55 pence.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but it's the chart that's the interesting thing. All right, because that's what the chart looks like. That's the max. That's since the inception of. Since 2017, it says on here, since Google started counting Bitcoin. All right, and that's what the chart looks like.
Right.
And it's going up, it's going up. All of a sudden, it's like, boof. It's just gone to the moon. Because there is no value left in those real.
Yeah. But obviously the Bitcoin's still holding 660 quid.
Yeah, it's still got that value. So yeah, if the pound went to zero, I'd be really happy that I'd got Bitcoin. Right? Yeah, because everything goes to zero against Bitcoin.
Yeah. So if you've got 10 grand in the bank, it goes to zero. You can buy a loaf of bread with it, but you've got that equivalent money in Bitcoin. You get.
If it was sat in Bitcoin, yeah, then I'd be able to buy the world basically.
Your 10 grand would be worth, I don't know, 50 million or whatever. Because you've got the Bitcoin.
Yeah, it gives you purchasing power.
Aye.
You gain purchasing power. You don't lose purchasing power with Bitcoin.
Yep.
As long as you hold over the long term.
Yep. So we talked about BlackRock and Larry Fink's sitting there smug as you like. Because some people say BlackRock controls the world, but it actually holds assets for companies. Is that right? It's like an asset manager.
They manage the assets, yeah. So basically, what they do is they manage pensions and funds and things like that. And so if you've got like a pension, if you've buying into a pension like a BlackRock pension, what they will do is they will buy companies to have in their pension fund, and because they've got shares in so many different companies, it means that they've got directors on the board of all these companies, which means that they've got control. Essentially, they've got control of all these companies.
Yep. So they set us up as an asset manager. Companies are using them. They're getting shares in the companies, and ultimately, the more shares they have, the more say they have in how each company is going, so they can direct the world essentially.
Yeah.
Through their influence in various companies, like for instance, the education system. They can decide what goes into the curriculum.
Yeah.
The health system, they can decide what vaccinations are mandatory or the protocols.
Absolutely, yeah.
And,
then you've got nefarious things like ESG, which is the environmental, social, and governance rules that come out. Because that was a Bitcoin thing. That was it before. Because BlackRock have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and they brought out the first Bitcoin ETF. But a few years ago, Larry Fink was on record as saying that the only thing that Bitcoin was good for was crime. They were totally against it, and they spouted that for years. But, you know what I mean? I'm sure they were certainly doing their research quietly, seeing how good it was, and slowly, quietly buying it up.
Yeah,
and shouting all the FUD. Yeah.
Yep, because they want it for themselves, obviously.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's watch this a little bit.
Does the government or BlackRock want us using Bitcoin? Do they own it? Governments and large financial institutions have mixed attitudes toward Bitcoin. Governments. Some governments see Bitcoin as a threat to their control over money and capital flows. They may regulate exchanges heavily, tax gains strictly, or even try to ban certain uses. Others are more neutral or even positive, viewing Bitcoin as an innovative asset class or a way to attract investment and talent. Big asset managers like BlackRock Large firms mainly see Bitcoin as a product they can wrap in familiar financial instruments, like ETFs, and charge fees on. They may personally prefer people to hold paper Bitcoin, through funds and custodians, rather than self-custody, because that keeps assets inside the traditional financial system. Do they own Bitcoin? No single entity owns or controls the Bitcoin network. Anyone can run a node and verify their own transactions. Institutions can and do accumulate coins, for example, to back ETFs or treasury holdings, but they still have to follow the same network rules as everyone else. In short, some powerful players would like to profit from Bitcoin or steer how people interact with it, but they did not create it, and they cannot unilaterally change its rules. Self-custody and widespread node operation are what keep Bitcoin outside the direct control of governments and megacorporations.
Yeah, I mean, we have talked about this up until now, but basically, it's a way to take your money out of the system. They're trying to buy up as much of it so they can control it as much as they can. But ultimately, people need to get on board and get their own Bitcoin, and that takes power away from these guys.
Yeah. I think, Billy, that within the next 5 years, the world is going to change massively because of the rise of AI. Okay, I think the AI is going to take a lot of people's jobs, and that's going to force universal basic income. And that's what's going to be the CBDCs. Unfortunately, those CBDCs are going to be programmatically controlled currencies, and so that you won't be able to hoard it. You'll only be able to have a certain amount, hold a certain amount. It'll have a lifespan. It'll have a shelf life if you don't spend it within a certain amount of time. And so what they're doing is they're making sure that everybody is caught and trapped on that system, and then they're helpless without it. Bitcoin is the alternative to that. It's for those that we're smart enough to see that there's an alternative, the road that we're going down, and you know what the alternative is. And
Go back to barter and trade and stuff like that. I've got 4 apples. Give me 3 pears or something.
It's lovely in theory, but it's not really scalable, is it?
No.
All right. Let's just say you own an orchard and I want a house built.
Right.
Or you own an orchard, but you want a house built, right? And I'm a builder.
Yeah.
Right. What am I going to do with 70 tons of apples?
Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what gold used to sit nicely in between that.
Yeah.
Because it was difficult to mine, right? And it can't be falsified, really.
Yeah.
You can try to falsify it, but they find you out. You ting it, you tap it, you can hear that it's gold. You can bite it and feel that it's gold. Gold is gold, and that was great. And that used to sit between you owning your orchard, having all those apples, and me being a builder building houses. And that's how we could meet and transact through the medium of gold. Well, Bitcoin has now taken that place of gold, except we're doing it digitally. Yeah. And there doesn't need to be a third party. I'm not posting my gold. I'm not posting my Bitcoin in the exchange. I'm not holding my gold in the bank. Do you know what I mean? I've taken the responsibility to hold it myself and learn how to hold it and look after it safely and not lose it. And then I can transact with you directly, and nobody else need get in the way of that.
Some people say it's also, as well as having Bitcoin, you're also probably a good idea to have some gold and silver as well to kind of diversify your.
I mean, gold worked really well for the last 5,000 years, and I'm pretty sure it will be around for the next 5,000 years. Yeah. However, it's got a monetary premium, but it's got an industrial use. And other than jewelry, it's got an industrial use, and that's where a lot of its premium comes from. The fact that we wear it for jewelry and pretty ourselves up, and it's a status symbol. Yeah.
Well, even copper and stuff has a value. You get these scrap merchants that come around looking for your copper and stuff. So.
Yeah, totally. Totally, the effort to get copper out of the ground, and if you're smart enough to pick it up, if you sweep up on building sites, and you've got a couple of buckets, it's very easy to pick up a nice Christmas bonus if you know what you're doing. There's a couple of ways you can go about that. You can either weigh it in at your local metal merchants, or you can get yourself a crucible and a heat source, and you can make your own ingots.
Yeah. But again, with gold and silver, it's hard to do that. Say I want to buy a CD or something from Germany to get that gold to them, whereas Bitcoin is instantaneous.
Yeah.
Not instantaneous, but
yeah, and it's there almost instantaneously. Yeah.
So it's like digital gold, essentially.
Yeah.
What do you need to do to hold Bitcoin in self-custody? To hold Bitcoin in self-custody, you need to control your own private keys safely. Here, as a simple step-by-step outline. 1. Choose a wallet type software wallet, phone or desktop app, easier to start with, good for smaller amounts. Hardware wallet, dedicated device, better security for larger savings because the keys never leave the device. 2. Generate a new wallet. When you set it up, it will show you a seed phrase, usually 12 or 24 words. This seed phrase is the master key to all your funds. Anyone who gets it can steal your coins. 3. Back up the seed phrase. Write it down clearly on paper or use a metal backup and store it somewhere safe and dry. Never type it into websites, screenshots, cloud storage, or send it by email. 4. Buy Bitcoin and withdraw to your wallet. Purchase BTC on an exchange or earn it. Send a small test amount to your new wallet address first. Once that arrives, send larger amounts. 5. Improve your security over time. Add a PIN or passphrase to the wallet. Consider using multisig, multiple keys needed to move funds, for larger amounts. Plan for inheritance so trusted people can access funds if something happens to you. Once your coins are in a wallet where you control the keys and your backups are secure, you are in self-custody, you are your own bank.
Yeah, so we've talked about this self-custody. There's a general guideline of how to do it. Again, we could search YouTube, and I know SimonDixon.com, he's got, if you sign up for his site, once you're in the back end, he's got it all for free, how to go about this. I have looked into this, and there's different wallets you can buy, and different ways you can do this. What would you recommend for people setting up self-custody, and would you recommend a particular wallet or way to go about it?
So I do have a couple of hard wallets, and I also have a hot wallet as well, which is a wallet on my mobile phone. The wallet on my mobile phone, the hot wallet is called Exodus. There are other wallets out there, but that's just the one that I've happened to use. I wouldn't highly rate it, but I wouldn't bag it off either. It's there as an option if I need to move some stuff. If I need to move some Bitcoin or do whatever, and I have held Bitcoin just in that wallet out the way in the past.
So that's different to being on Coinbase or stuff. You've taken it off the exchange and you put it in your own hot wallet.
Yeah. So before I had a cold wallet, before I bought my first cold wallet, I still wanted to get the money off Coinbase. I got a wallet that was an app on my phone, and I downloaded the app and I transferred the money there. And the Bitcoin there, and the Bitcoin sat there quite happily until I wanted to do something else with it. The cold wallets I'm using, I have a Ledger, and I also have a Trezor. I wouldn't recommend either now. Ledger, I don't trust at all anymore.
Why not?
Although I have a very small amount sat on my Ledger at the minute. I will be moving it off when I get another cold wallet, but it's not like a massive amount or anything that I'm worried about. The reason why I don't trust Ledger is because they're not completely open source, so you can't verify all their code. They also have had information hacked in the past, so the customer information for Ledger's customers has been leaked, which then becomes a vector of attack. Do you know, it's intelligence that hackers could use to then start targeting you and trying to get your money from you. So I don't trust Ledger. Trezor, basically, I don't want to use Trezor anymore because they had in one of their updates, they had an auto update feature. Fortunately, I haven't updated my Trezor. So basically, going forward, had I implemented that update, the Trezor wallet would have automatically updated if it needed to every time I plugged it in. I don't like that feature. I want to decide whether I want to update my device or not. I'm not going to have it doing something that I don't know that's going on in the background in the back end. And so I'm currently researching now. I'm currently looking at either a Bitbox, which is a Bitcoin only wallet, and it is from a Swiss company. And then the other device that I'm looking at is Cold Card, which I believe is American.
So once you buy these things, is there instructions in them how to use, or you just have to go?
Yeah. So there is instructions on them how to use them. Another option is to get a desktop wallet. So you could get a wallet on your desktop or your laptop. Examples of that I can think off the top of my head is MetaMask or Sparrow. I have used MetaMask in the past, although I didn't particularly get on with it. And I think that MetaMask was also mainly set up towards Ethereum chains. Sparrow, I've had recommended to me. I haven't got round to looking at yet.
So what happens then in all of these cases? Say you've got a desktop, it's on a desktop app or whatever.
Yeah.
The hard drive fucks up, or you've got one of these wallets
and it gets destroyed.
Aye.
Right. So you have a seed phrase, either a 12 or 24 word seed phrase. All right. That is the key. That's basically the way you get into and you recover your wallet.
Right. So what it doesn't matter if they get destroyed, you can buy a new wallet and somehow.
Well, basically you put those 12. Let's just say, for example, you had a ledger, you had one Bitcoin on a ledger, okay, and the ledger got destroyed.
What do you mean a ledger?
It's a hardware wallet, right? And so what you do is you don't even need to buy another ledger. You just need to buy another hardware wallet. Okay, it can
you
be.
You just said a ledger was a hardware wallet.
A ledger, yeah, a ledger is a type of wallet. It's a name of a company that makes Bitcoin. Right. Sorry, it's that makes it a bad example. Like I said, when it's saying the wallets I've got a ledger. It's like a little thing that big,
right?
A pen drive that you plug into your USB ports.
Right.
Okay, so let's just say, for argument's sake, you've got a Trezor wallet, not a ledger. You've got one Bitcoin on it, right? It got smashed up, or it got destroyed. Somebody sat on it, it got broken. You could then just go and buy another hardware wallet, and it wouldn't need to be a Trezor. You could buy a Tangem, or you could buy a Cold Card, or you could buy a Bitbox, or insert name of the
wallet.
The wallet that you've bought, right? You would take the 12 words or the 24 word seed that you had from your original wallet.
Yep.
Right, you would put that into your new wallet when you were asked, and it would reconstitute all your Bitcoin in that new wallet.
Right. So as long as it's in your head or on the titanium thing.
Yeah. So as long as you've got those keys, those 12 words, your seed phrase, they're basically that's the key to all your Bitcoin.
Because I was looking at a particular wallet. I think it was on Amazon, but again, you didn't recommend buying through a third party. You always buy from the source.
Yeah, please don't ever buy a Bitcoin wallet from a third party vendor. All right, don't buy it off eBay, don't buy it off Amazon, don't buy it off anybody else unless it specifically says they made it, they manufactured it.
So I was looking at this on Amazon then. When you said that to me, I then went to the one on Amazon to their website, and it was selling like 3 wallets. Well, it sold one, but then there was like an offer. Do you want to buy 3 and save some money? Blah blah. But then, what's the point of having 3? Is that in case one breaks? Is it 3 identical ones?
So it might be that you want to buy multiple wallets at a time, so you can give one to your wife or your girlfriend or your kids.
And would that store the same information on, or would it be their Bitcoin?
You'd have 3 different sets of seed phrases, so that would be 3 separate wallet setups.
Right.
So you would have, or you could buy 3, just use one until you broke it.
Yeah.
Right, and then look, I've just got this piece of hardware here. I'll incorporate my 12 or 24 words into it. and then you're ready to go. You're good to go again.
So it's going to be
that'd
stored
be another
one
way.
at a time. You couldn't have the same amount on different wallets. Like, so I could put one there, one there, one there. If I lose that one, well, I can just pick up this one and it's got it on it. It doesn't work like that.
The short answer is I'm not entirely sure.
Right.
It might be possible that you could, but it doesn't matter what happens. You still won't double spend.
Yeah.
All right. It might show up on because I mean I've got Coinbase on my computer, and I know it's an exchange and not a wallet, but I've got Coinbase on my computer and I've got Coinbase on my phone. Right, and it both tells me what we both they both tell me if I've got Bitcoin on Coinbase.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the point. It would be the same amount, but spend it on one, it disappears from the others as well.
Yeah. You can't. That's the thing. You can't double spend on Bitcoin.
So
there's no double spend.
If I've got Bitcoin on a wallet and I know the seed phrases, and I've got a bit of titanium and I die, and I've told somebody, look, if I die, all you need to do is go to that thing and go into the thing, and they can get access to it. Do they need to prove that they're me?
No.
Or you know the seed phrase, you can pick up that thing. Oh shit, lost them. So that's what I'm saying. Like for instance, let's say inheritance. If I say to my partner, whatever, like I've got this thing, I've got it stored somewhere, or even here it is. You know, whoever dies first, the one that's left, has got this.
Yeah.
Do you need to prove who you are? Do you need to do anything like that?
No, having that seed phrase is your proof. Well,
right.
That is, that's why you're very careful about not writing it down where a camera can see it. Not taking a picture of it, not writing it in an email. It's something that you need to really seriously consider when you're handling it.
Yeah. Because then again, they don't need proof of identity, digital ID to access it. You just need the actual phrase.
Yeah, that 24 words, that 12 or 24 words is your way in. Yeah, that's it.
So you use that. If it's on a hard wallet, you have to use that to get in, and then from there, if you want a transaction sent to someone, do anything, you need that phrase to get access to the wallet.
It will depend on how you've got your wallet set up in different ways. But basically, when you very first buy your cold wallet, it will ask you for it will give you 12 or 24 words, and it will ask you to write them down, and you have to write them down correctly in the right order, and then it will get you to confirm it and check that you've got it right. All right, and that's it. And then in the future, you can go onto your hardware wallet and say, "What's my seed phrase again? Just remind me what my seed phrase is, in case." All right, but
at that point, is that not hackable? If somebody was watching your computer screen or whatever.
That's an interesting question. That in itself is an interesting question. I'm not too sure how to answer that either. You're getting more technical than I am.
Yeah, but anyway, putting people in the right direction and do your own research is essentially what we're saying. Yeah. So that's the end of the questions. Have you got anything you'd like to say to wrap up about Bitcoin? We've covered quite a lot.
I think that personally, you'll get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. I think everybody will get Bitcoin at the price they deserve. What I mean by that is when it becomes important to them to research Bitcoin for whatever emergency or whatever's gone on in their life, that things aren't happening well for them, and that they need to find another avenue, then they generally find Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is also fixing so many problems that you wouldn't believe. That so many problems, and look all over the world. Yeah, you can see it. It's especially in the financial south, the places that haven't got so much money. That's where Bitcoin is making the biggest impacts.
Yeah, you did actually write another paper that we've not looked at, and that was going into quite a few various things with regard to its uses.
Yeah, that was this one here. That was the one I started off with, the Hayek quote, and that paper was The Birth of Unstoppable Money, from Hayek's Vision to Bitcoin. It's a global study of Bitcoin's role in financial inclusion and economic freedom, authored by me and ChatGPT.
Yeah, I'll actually put these two papers, PDFs, on my website underneath this video so people can download them and look at that as well. But yeah, it is getting used for many different things, and it took. I was open to you telling me about it, and I was interested, but again, over time, and again, especially with the Simon Dixon stuff, how he relates so-called conspiracy theories to what's going on in the world and how it's financially driven, which is no great surprise, but the way he lays it out is just like a big, massive eye opener, and then you wonder why these other conspiracy researchers who have done a lot of great work, either they're not aware of how the money controls it or they're intentionally avoiding it. It's up for you to decide which, but certainly I found they went to another level, so I would recommend listening to Simon Dixon. I actually asked him for an interview so I could ask him more about the history of conspiracy theories, really, because I think he's got quite a good grasp of it.
Sorry, did you say you were going to ask him for an interview?
I did already. I've not heard back from him. He's had a lot of requests.
Right, do you know, knowing that you do that, because obviously I listen to a lot of his stuff on YouTube, and I just write little comments just so for the algorithm and that. So I'll just start putting in his comments, interview with Billy Watson. Right. If it just keeps spamming it, you know what I mean? Like, if you just keep repeating it, eventually he might see it.
Well, I was planning on actually sending him another message with a link to this interview, just to say, here's what we're doing. We're trying to get your name out there. We're trying to do Bitcoin, and I'd like you to come on the show if possible, you know. But I do realise he's got people with vastly more knowledge than me on the topic that want to interview him. I think he had quite a lot of requests. He said he was going offline for a month, but he'd done quite a lot of other interviews.
Yeah, that's it. All he was doing was other people's podcasts. I would recommend that you also have a look on YouTube. There's a channel called On the Road to One Bitcoin. And it's a guy basically walking his dog, and he's trying to get himself to one Bitcoin. There's all the different ways that he's been going about it. He used to own a record label. He's quite an interesting young guy, and it was getting harder and harder for him to make a profit on the albums that he was producing. And eventually he chopped it all in. It's like, right, I'm going to try and do this. And he started his YouTube channel. It's called On the Road to One Bitcoin. I highly recommend that you have a look at him. I can't remember what the guy's actual name is, but that's what his channel is. And that's worth a look and maybe trying to interact with as well.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, thanks very much for your time today and also for getting me onto this topic. And initially, even buying my first Bitcoin for me, because this is like almost I don't know, you're trying to get your family members onto, there's a word I can't quite get, but you're like...
It was have some skin in the game.
Aye.
If you've got a little bit of skin in the game, rather than talking about something that is quite highly theoretical to begin with, and you can't physically touch it, like you say, which makes it difficult. Yeah. Right? You anchor the idea to that pound note, don't you?
Yeah.
Right. And so the idea was, if you've actually got some skin in the game and you can see it, and that's there in your wallet, and you can see the price of it going up and down, that might create some interest. And that's why I did that originally.
Yeah, well, it certainly has done, and I'm glad I've done it. And again, another thing, I keep mentioning Simon Dixon. He is a very important guy to get the word out there. But he says, basically, own more Bitcoin than you did last month.
Yeah.
If it's 20 quid's worth, 30 quid's worth, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just chipping away. If I've got a little bit excess, then I buy a wee bit more, but even just a basic amount is a good recommendation, because over time that is going to vastly increase. So your small amount you're buying now is going to be worth that amount down the line, which you don't get in banks and stuff like that. In fact, it's going the opposite direction.
There's probably a couple of million people that have got Bitcoin at the minute, really, in real terms, in self-custody. Eventually 8 billion will have. Okay, it's just when do you want to get on? You know what I mean? And a lot of people they can be quite resentful of the early adopters. It's like, well, why should they have all that money? It's like, well, they took the risk. Again, it's a proof of work system. They took the risk. They got the reward. They did the work there. Okay, and that paved the way for people like me, who, do you know what I mean? I got into it after it had been established for over a decade, and yet I'm still early. And you're still early, and anybody that buys today is still early.
Yeah.
And it is my hypothesis that Bitcoin eventually, when it goes to $2 million, people will be upset that they didn't buy at 1 million.
Aye. Yeah, because sometimes you think, fuck, if only I'd paid
Yeah,
more attention to
I missed
this.
the boat. There's no point now. I've missed the boat.
Aye.
Well, you can say that until eventually you'll buy. You know what I mean? You'll buy it at 10 million.
Aye.
If you don't buy it at 100,000, you'll buy it at 1 million,
Yeah.
or you'll buy it at 5 million.
We're not saying you're going to buy £5 million worth. We're saying you're going to get a fraction.
That's
of
what
that value.
Bitcoin will be.
Aye.
Yeah, you're just going to get less and less Bitcoin for your money.
Aye.
It's like I say, I spent 1 penny, I got 15 Satoshi. Okay, if Bitcoin goes up, I'll get 14 Satoshi or 13.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, it's been fascinating chatting. I will chop this up and edit it together and stick it out there. If anyone has any questions, I guess the best place to go is simondixon.com and YouTube. Type in Bitcoin and do your own research. And good luck. And I hope we've certainly brought this topic to your attention and the value that's there. And we've done our bit, we can say then, you know.
Thank you for talking to me today. I'm grateful.
No worries, thanks for your time. Stay there, I'll say goodbye to you off camera. Everyone else, thanks for watching. I'm not sure when I'm back doing live shows because I'm focusing on preparing my show for the Glasgow Comedy Festival coming up soon. That's called Conspiracy Theorist. And there was a line in that, I've done this skit way back in the past, and I used to say at the end of this thing, people are creating their own interest-free currency. And that's their way of rebelling against the system. I'm going to change that line to people are now using Bitcoin. And then have a wee highlight of Bitcoin in my show to try and again raise awareness of it, because people have heard of Bitcoin but they're not really sure what it's about, hence this program and other people putting info out there. So thanks for your time, and we'll see you on the next one whenever that may be. Cheers for now, bye bye.